Chapter 1. Magical Mission 1. This is your reward for going to North Africa. Old Lin carefully took out 2 crumpled $100 bills from a well-wrapped rag and handed them to Lin Yi, who was staring at him eagerly. Lin Yi couldn't understand why his mission was so dangerous, his enemy was so strong, and the client's reward was so generous, but in the end, his reward was so little. Where did this old man find all these amazing missions for him? Every time, it was a narrow escape, and the reward he got was $50 or $100. Luckily, there were still $3 or $2 left. Every time he thought about it, Lin Yi wanted to cry. Receiving the $200 that he traded his life for, Lin Yi wanted to curse the most. Motherfucker! Even though he was an orphan and didn't have a mother since he was young. He learned martial arts from old Lin, who raised him for 15 years and studied for 15 years. No matter what, he could be considered well-versed in both literature and martial arts, right? In ancient times, he would have been a top scholar in both literature and martial arts, but now he was being ordered around like a laborer. When would this day ever come to an end? He heard that building houses in the city could earn tens of thousands of dollars a year, but he only earned $1,000 or $800 a year, even though he was hovering between life and death every day. Old man, you're not messing with me, are you? $200? I really wonder if you're deducting my reward? This wasn't the first time Lin Yi had suspected this, but the old man wore the same clothes and ate the same food as him, and didn't look like a rich person. It's good enough to get paid. Do you think money is so easy to earn nowadays? Old Lin rolled his puffy eyes and said unhappily, What? You don't want it? If you don't want it, then give it back to me. I haven't been to Widow Wang's snack shop in a long time. Lin Yi really wanted to beat the old man in front of him, but he knew that if he did, he would only get beaten up. Lin Yi had no idea how powerful old Lin's martial arts were. He only knew that old Lin never used his full strength when he trained with him. Just as his kung fu improved by a level, he suddenly found that the old man had also improved by a level, and he was still defeated by him. All right, you've had enough experience over the years. It's about time for that big event. Old man Lin didn't even bat an eyelid as he sat cross-legged on the brick bed, munching on a plate of fennel beans in front of him. If you complete this mission well, you won't have to worry about food and drink for the rest of your life. Really? Lin Yi knew that he had been picked up by the old man when he was 3 years old. Since then, he had been learning kung fu, medicine, and knowledge from the outside world from the old man in order to do something big. However, Lin Yi doubted whether the reward for this big thing was as much as the old man had said. One task was enough for him to eat for the rest of his life. When have I ever lied to you? Old Lin tossed another fennel bean into his mouth. Are you coming or not? If not, I'll get someone else. Of course I'll go. Lin Yi said. Only an idiot wouldn't go for something this good. One mission was enough for him to eat for the rest of his life. He wouldn't have to live like this anymore. Even if it was a tiger's den, it would be worth it. All right, then go. Go to Songshan, Pengzhan Industries. Find someone called Pengzhan. He'll tell you what to do next. Old Lin's lips curled into an almost imperceptible smile. But you have to think this through. Once you accept this mission, you have to finish it. You can't back out in the middle. Why? Why don't you let me run when there's danger? Lin Yi wasn't a one-track-minded person. He wouldn't do something even if he knew it would kill him. Lily, I've raised you for 15 years. I've provided for you to eat, to drink, to buy you a laptop, to buy you a 3G network card. The old man rolled his eyes and started nagging. Why do you have so many questions when I ask you to do something? Don't force me. Fuck. Lin Yi was pissed off at the old man's words. You raised me for the first 3 years, and I've been the one cooking since I was 6, chopping firewood, weaving straw sandals to make money for you. Don't force me. Don't think I don't know that you're watching porn on the computer in the middle of the night. The old man glared at him. You forced me to say this. You even looked at the computer. All right, I'll go. I won't run away. Okay. Lin Yi's face reddened. He didn't think that the old man would find out about something so secretive. How embarrassing. If she allowed him to continue, who knew what kind of inappropriate scenes he would say? And so, under old Lin's threats and promises, Lin Yi carried his backpack and stepped on the train north. He traveled thousands of miles to Songshan, the modern international metropolis. As he sat on the train, Lin Yi thought that he'd have to encrypt the porn and hide it in the system folder. He'd have to keep his eyes and ears open when doing that kind of thing. However, Lin Yi was looking forward to this mission. A mission like this that would allow him to retire was a dream come true for Lin Yi. Although, he could tell from old Lin's words that this mission wasn't going to be easy. Yes, it was going to be challenging if it wasn't easy. Pack. A pockmarked man sitting across from Lin Yi opened a can of cola and threw the ring on the table. A crew-cut guy next to the man pretended not to care. He picked up the ring and played with it in his hand. After a while he suddenly shouted, "Wow! Wah! Wah! First prize!" Although the crew-cut guy's voice wasn't loud in the noisy train, the passengers nearby all heard him and looked at him. The pockmarked man was no exception. He saw that the ring in the crew-cut guy's hand was the one he threw earlier. His expression became unnatural. "Give it to me, it's mine." "What, yours? Where's your name on it?" The crew-cut guy retracted his right hand and gripped the ring tightly in his hand. He stared at him and said, "You're called first prize?" "No. I'm not called first prize. I was the one who lost the first prize." The pockmarked man saw the crew-cut guy's ferocious look and became a little timid. However, he didn't want to lose what he deserved, so he said with a trembling voice, "You said it yourself, you lost it. Since you lost it, it belongs to whoever picked it up." The crew-cut snorted and said disdainfully, "Hey, how can you be like this?" The pockmarked man suddenly became anxious. He looked at the passenger sitting across from him, a man with glasses sitting to the left of Lin Yi. "Mister, you look like a scholar. Why is he acting like this? Isn't he acting shamelessly?" "Who's acting shamelessly?" The crew-cut guy wasn't happy either. He turned to the man with glasses and said, "Sir, tell me, who should this ring go to?" The man with glasses pushed his glasses up and said hesitantly, "I'm a university teacher. Since you two trust me, I'll be your judge." Go on, go on." The pockmarked man and the crew-cut guy nodded and looked anxiously at the man with glasses who claimed to be a university teacher. Logically speaking, the ring was pulled off the drink can by this big brother, so it should belong to him. The man with glasses was halfway through his sentence when the pockmarked man showed a proud expression. The crew-cut guy immediately became anxious. Just as he was about to say something, the man with glasses waved his hand and stopped him. However, since this big brother has already thrown the ring away, and this brother found it, then it should belong to this brother. "But you said it yourself, the ring is mine." The pockmarked man heard the man with glasses and immediately cried, "In my opinion, why don't you two split the prize equally? That way, no one loses out." The man with glasses suggested, "Split." The crew-cut guy hesitated, then gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, let's split it." The crew-cut probably felt that he was being unreasonable, so he agreed to the man with glasses' suggestion. The pockmarked man saw that the ring was in the crew-cut's hand. If he didn't agree, he might not get anything. It was better to split it in half, so he nodded in agreement. "Okay, since you've both agreed, let's split it." The man with glasses took the can from the pockmarked man's hand and looked at it. "It's written here that the first prize is 100,000 yuan. After deducting 20% of the income tax, there's 80,000 yuan left. Since it's a little troublesome to collect the prize, one of you can give the other person 30,000 yuan and collect the prize yourself. What do you think?" Chapter 2. Scam Part 2. The crew-cut guy was put in a difficult position. He touched his pocket subconsciously and said, "I don't have that much money with me. How about you give me 30,000, and you can go and claim the prize?" "I don't have that either. What should I do?" The freckled guy frowned and said, "Look at me. Do I look like someone who can fork out 30,000? Teacher, please think of something for us. We don't have that much money with us." The freckled guy asked the glasses guy for help again. The glasses guy thought for a while and said, "How about I give each of you 30,000, and you give me the ring, and I'll claim the prize?" The freckled guy and the crew-cut guy looked at each other. They felt that they could still get 30,000 each, so they agreed. "Okay, let's do that." The bespectacled man suddenly revealed a look of delight. Then, he took his briefcase and began to look for money. At first, his expression was still very happy. However, as the speed at which he rummaged through the bag increased, the man's expression became uglier and uglier. Beads of sweat began to seep from his forehead. Finally he sighed and said, "Oh no, I didn't bring much money when I went out today. I only have 30,000 yuan. You guys won't sell it either. I'm so unlucky to see the money disappear just like that." Ha! The freckled guy and the crew cut guy were dumbfounded. The glasses guy didn't bring any money, and neither did they. How were they going to split the prize? The freckled guy couldn't sit still anymore. "Teacher, you're knowledgeable and cultured. Please help us think of something." "Sai, how about this? Ask someone else," the glasses guy said and turned his face to Lin Yi. "Young man, this is a golden opportunity to get rich. Do you have money? Give each of them 30,000 first, then you take the ring and claim the prize. You'll earn 20,000 in one go. Is there a better way to make money than this? If it weren't for the fact that I didn't bring any money, I would have done this myself." Previously, Lin Yi had been coldly watching the three of them acting. It was obvious that the three of them were in cahoots. The pockmarked man was party A, the crew cut was party B, and the bespectacled man was supporting them. Although Lin Yi grew up in the mountains, he was not a fool. Don't be fooled by his rustic attire. In terms of knowledge, not many people were his match, let alone these three scammers. "Me." Lin Yi pretended to be surprised and pointed at himself. "Can I?" "All right, now this good thing has fallen upon your head." Hearing Lin Yi ask if he could, instead of saying that he had no money, the bespectacled man was overjoyed. After all, if he said that, there was an 80% chance that he had goods in his bag. Lin Yi just wanted to say something, but he felt that his leg was kicked by someone. Lin Yi glanced at his right side. It was a very beautiful girl who was about the same age as Lin Yi. Her hair was like water, and her skin was white. Although she didn't stand up, according to Lin Yi's visual estimation, the girl was at least about 1.65 meters tall. She was considered tall. After getting on the train, she listened to the MP3 quietly. Lin Yi wanted to strike up a conversation with her to relieve boredom on the way, but the girl had been wearing earplugs, so Lin Yi couldn't do anything. At this moment, the girl was looking at Lin Yi anxiously. She wanted to say something, but she had some scruples. She could only hint to Lin Yi with her eyes. Lin Yi naturally knew what the girl meant. She didn't want him to be fooled. Lin Yi's heart suddenly warmed. Didn't they say that people in big cities were very indifferent? When they saw that it had nothing to do with them, they would just ignore it. The girl could remind me, which means that she has a good heart. Therefore, the girl's image in Lin Yi's mind suddenly increased a few points. It was important for a girl to be beautiful, but if she was vicious, then it was useless to be beautiful. This was Lin Yi's standard for judging girls. Cough, cough. The girl with the crew cut opposite the girl seemed to notice the girl's behavior. She suddenly coughed loudly and glared at the girl. The girl was scared and lowered her head. Of course, these small details naturally couldn't escape Lin Yi's eyes. However, Lin Yi was bored on the journey. He had a stomach full of anger with the old man at home. He had nowhere to vent it. Just a few fools came to the door. How could Lin Yi miss this opportunity to tease them? However, although the girl lowered her head, she still kicked Lin Yi with her feet to warn him. However, Lin Yi didn't seem to feel it. He was not moved at all. "I only have 49,000. I don't have that much." Lin Yi pretended to be honest and said truthfully. When the pockmarked face and the crew cut opposite heard that Lin Yi had 49,000, their eyes suddenly shot a brilliant light. However, their faces were still bitter. "It's only 49,000. Isn't it a little less? How much can we each get?" 49,000 divided by 2 is 24,500. The crew cut calculated. 24,500? It's not bad. I agree. What about you? After the pockmarked face listened, he nodded quickly. Okay, since you agree, then I also agree. The crew cut nodded and said, "Give me the money." Lin Yi opened his backpack and took out a small bag wrapped in newspaper. He opened it layer by layer and revealed 5 stacks of banknotes. "This is 49,000. That's all. You guys count it." Lin Yi said very honestly. "You guys give me the ring pull." This money was the living expenses that the old man gave to Lin Yi for the next 10 years. In the past few years, Lin Yi had earned a lot of money for the old man. For example, the assassination mission in North Africa last time. According to international practice, he should have been paid at least a few $100,000. However, before he left, the old man rummaged through a broken bag and found this 49,000 yuan. He claimed that this was all the money he had at home and asked him to use it sparingly. This made Lin Yi very depressed. Was the old man really poor, or was he pretending to be poor? However, it didn't seem like he was pretending. The old man ate the same as me every day. I didn't see him enjoying anything. Could it be that I overestimated the rewards of those missions? Okay. The pockmarked face and the crew cut were like hungry wolves. They divided the banknotes in front of them and passed the ring to Lin Yi. Lin Yi carefully kept the ring on his body, afraid to lose it. He was as careful as a treasure. Seeing that the three scammers had succeeded, the girl sitting next to Lin Yi sighed helplessly. Looking at Lin Yi's excited face, the girl really didn't know what to say. Chapter 3. Wang Xinyan, 2. The girl stopped kicking Lin Yi's leg and leaned against the window, listening to her MP3 player. We have arrived at Songshan Station. Passengers, please get ready. We will stop for 15 minutes. The train announced the arrival of the station, and Lin Yi started packing his luggage to get off the train. To his surprise, the girl beside him started packing as well. Evidently, she was going to get off at Songshan Station as well. When the girl stood up, Lin Yi gauged her with his eyes. His guess was correct. The girl was around 165 meters tall. After getting off the train, Lin Yi looked at the gorgeous buildings in the station in awe. He'd been here 10 years ago, but Songshan had changed a lot since then. Wait! A sweet female voice came from behind Lin Yi. Lin Yi stopped and turned around. It was the girl who'd sat next to him on the train. She was waving at him as she ran towards him. What's up? Lin Yi, of course, didn't believe that a girl would fall in love with him at first sight. He was handsome, but his attire was too tacky. Yellow pants and a white singlet, the same outfit as a migrant worker in the city. You're not thinking of redeeming your prize, are you? The girl said angrily. She was angry at Lin Yi for ignoring her warning on the train. Oh, you're talking about this? Lin Yi took the ring out of his pocket and threw it on the side of the road. Ah! It was the girl's turn to be shocked. She didn't think that Lin Yi would do something like this. You threw it away? The girl pointed at Lin Yi, her mouth wide open. Yeah, I did. Lin Yi nodded. It's fake, there's no point in keeping it. You knew it was fake? The girl didn't understand what Lin Yi meant. She stared at Lin Yi, dumbfounded. What was wrong with this guy? You know it's fake, but you still bought it? Was he crazy? Judging from his appearance, he didn't look like the kind of rich person with a bad taste. I know. Even if I didn't know, you reminded me on the train. Lin Yi said. Then why did you give them the money? The girl was anxious. What kind of person was this? Lin Yi smiled, took his backpack off his shoulder, unzipped it, and opened it in front of the girl. The girl looked at Lin Yi in surprise. Then, she lowered her head and looked into Lin Yi's backpack. She was shocked. There were 7 to 8 bundles of cash inside. Are you rich? Even if you have money, you can't just squander it, right? The girl didn't quite understand what Lin Yi meant. She thought that Lin Yi was showing off how rich he was. This is the money from just now, Lin Yi said. The money just now? What do you mean? The girl didn't understand. You mean you got the money back? Wasn't there only 49,000? This should be 70 or 80,000, right? The glasses man still had 30,000 in his hand. I took it together with him. Lin Yi shrugged and said. This was just a piece of cake. For Lin Yi, it couldn't be simpler. Huh. The girl was completely dumbfounded this time. It wasn't that Lin Yi had a problem, but that he was more skillful. Not only did he get his money back, but he also took the money from the glasses man. What's with this expression? Are you going to report me for stealing? Your sense of justice is quite strong. Lin Yi looked at the girl's surprised expression and smiled. Of course not. The girl blushed and shook her head. But I really want to thank you before. There aren't many girls like you. Lin Yi said sincerely. Can I treat you to a meal later? It's okay. The girl shook her head shyly. My family is waiting for me at the exit. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't force the issue. Hitting on girls was a technical thing, but it was also important to follow the flow. Being too deliberate would have the opposite effect. I won't bother you then. Xinyan looked at Lin Yi's back and shook her head. What a strange person. If her mother wasn't waiting for her at the exit, she wouldn't mind spending more time with Lin Yi. It wasn't that Xinyan had a good impression of Lin Yi. She just felt that Lin Yi was really different from the others. He had so much money in his backpack, and he didn't put it in the bank. He was dressed like a country bumpkin, but there was something about him that she couldn't describe. Sir, do you want to stay at the inn? It's very cheap. Lin Yi was surrounded by a group of people soliciting customers from nearby hotels as soon as he walked out of the train station. This kind of workers' attire was the focus of these small hotels when doing business. Rich people wouldn't stay in small hotels like this. Big hotels didn't need to come out to solicit customers. Lin Yi waved his hand and squeezed through the crowd of people soliciting customers. He walked towards the taxi stop in the square. Lin Yi had a piece of paper in his hand. It was the address that old man gave him before he left. He got on a taxi, and the driver asked enthusiastically, "Young man, where are you going?" "To this address." Lin Yi handed the paper to the driver. The driver was a professional at the train station, and he had a good eye for customers. One look and he could tell that Lin Yi was from out of town, probably here for work. He wanted to trick him a little, since Lin Yi wasn't familiar with the roads anyways. He happily took the paper from Lin Yi and looked at the address written on it. The driver's face turned green immediately. The paper wrote, Songshan City, Guangming Avenue, 36, Pengzhan Building. 11. 2 kilometers from the train station. Take the new second ring bridge. Even the route had been designed, and the mileage was clearly marked. Who would be able to blackmail them? But why would this young man go to Pengzhan Building? That was the biggest corporation in Songshan. How would a guy dressed like a migrant worker know the people there? The driver sighed, threw the note to the side, and drove the car obediently. Songshan's traffic was good. There were many bridges. Lin Yi felt like he arrived at his destination in the blink of an eye. He paid the 24 yuan fare and got off. Lin Yi felt a bit dizzy looking at the tall building in front of him. It seemed to be even taller than the mountain in his hometown. It seemed like his employer was rich. Maybe it was like what old man said. One mission could earn him a lifetime of money. He just didn't know if he would fall to his death if he jumped down. Back in his hometown, old man kicked him into the ravine from the top of the mountain. He didn't die, but he was bedridden for a few days with a swollen face. Chapter 4. Who are you looking for? Sir, who are you looking for? Lin Yi was stopped by the building's security guard after a few steps. Wait, let me have a look. Lin Yi thought to himself. Big cities still had security guards, but this security guard was just for show. He wasn't even as good as Buttface. Buttface was Lin Yi's playmate. Although he didn't know kung fu, he could kill a cow with one punch. From Lin Yi's point of view, this security guard was far weaker than a cow. He wasn't even as strong as a cow. Lin Yi took out a piece of paper from his pocket and looked at the words on it. I'm looking for Chu Pengzhan. Chu Pengzhan? Who is it? Why does this name sound so familiar? The security guard was startled and repeated the name in his mouth. The chairman. The older security guard who was standing at the side reacted faster. He immediately remembered who Chu Pengzhan was. He quickly pulled on the clothes of the previous security guard and whispered, Don't talk nonsense. If the captain hears you, you'll be fired. Ah! The previous security guard was shocked when he heard the words of the older security guard. He opened his eyes wide and regretted talking too much. What was he talking about? Now, he didn't even know the chairman. How could he be a security guard? Who was he supposed to protect? However, the security guard looked at Lin Yi's clothes and rolled his eyes. He wasn't afraid anymore. No matter how he looked at it, Lin Yi didn't look like someone who could be related to the chairman. One was the chairman of a Fortune 500 company, and the other was a migrant worker from the countryside. There didn't seem to be any connection between them. Could this kid be a construction worker and was here to complain to the chairman? The security guard raised his vigilance. He had seen a similar movie 2 days ago. It was called, Oh Me 105,000. In the movie, a migrant worker went to the chairman to ask for money. The security guard and the older security guard looked at each other. Obviously, they were thinking the same thing. Why are you looking for Chairman Chu? The old guard cleared his throat as he stared at Lin Yi with a serious face, afraid that he'd do something drastic. I'm not looking for him. It's my old man who asked me to look for him, Lin Yi said lazily. Lin Yi didn't care about the identity of his employer in real life. They were all here for him. Ha! Your old man? The two gods were even more certain of their suspicions. The worker in the movie was asking for money on behalf of his brother, and this kid in front of them was asking for money on behalf of his father. All right, let's not talk about useless stuff. Just tell me which floor Pingzhan's on. I'll go find him. Lin Yi didn't have the time to waste with these two bodyguards. He needed to find the person in question first. The chairman isn't here. You can leave. The older security guard looked at Lin Yi again. After making sure that he had nothing to do with the chairman, he directly asked him to leave. Lin Yi didn't want to waste time with these two. Lin Yi naturally saw the look in their eyes. Lin Yi could guess what they were thinking. Wasn't it because he looked like a country bumpkin? What a snob. Since he's not here, I'll go in and wait for him, Lin Yi said and walked into the company. Wait, you can't go in. The two security guards didn't expect Lin Yi to barge in. They wanted to stop him. At this time, the elevator door opened. A slightly plump middle-aged man and a tanned and skinny middle-aged man walked out together. It should be about time. Why hasn't Lin Yi contacted me yet? Li Fu, why don't you drive to the station to pick him up? Didn't you see the photo? The plump middle-aged man ordered the tanned and skinny middle-aged man. All right, Mr. Chen. I'll go now, Li Fu said respectfully. Li Fu hadn't left when Chu Pingzhan heard the quarrel at the company entrance. He frowned and said to Li Fu, "Go see what's going on." What's going on? Li Fu walked quickly in the direction of the company's entrance and saw the company's two security guards stopping a young man from entering the company. Faubert, this person said he wants to see the chairman. He even forced his way into the company. The security naturally recognized Li Fu. Although Li Fu didn't have a specific administrative position in the company, he was the chairman's closest person. If you had to say what position he held in the company, it would be that he was the chairman's driver. But everyone in the company knew that Li Fu wasn't just a driver. So these security guards didn't treat Li Fu as a driver at all. They respected him as a leader. In many cases, Li Fu's words represented the chairman's intentions. You. Li Fu looked at Lin Yi, his eyes wide. You're Lin Yi? That's me. Lin Yi nodded after looking at Li Fu. He'd been paying attention to Li Fu the moment he'd appeared. His instincts told him that this person wasn't Pingzhan, after all. As the chairman of a corporation, it was only natural for him to have the aura of a leader, but this person didn't have that. He was serious and respected, but a person's aura couldn't be changed. Hello. Li Fu knew how important this young man was to Pingzhan, so he didn't hesitate after confirming who Lin Yi was. He quickly extended his hand to shake Lin Yi's. I'm the secretary of the chairman, Li Fu. The chairman wanted me to pick you up at the train station. I didn't expect you to be here already. It's fine. I'll just treat it as getting familiar with the place. Lin Yi smiled and shook hands with Li Fu. This was Lin Yi's personality. He'd respect you if you respected him. Lin Yi felt a little embarrassed seeing Li Fu being so polite. The chairman is over there. Please come with me. We'll meet the chairman together. Li Fu made an inviting gesture before leading the way. The two security guards stared at Lin Yi's back, their mouths wide open. Is he really the chairman's guest? The security guard murmured in disbelief. Faubert came to pick him up personally. Naturally, there's no mistake about it. The old security guard sighed. We almost offended him. Luckily, Faubert came in time. If we really kicked him out, we'd be in big trouble. As Li Fu walked over, Lin Yi noticed a slightly plump middle-aged man not too far away. If he wasn't mistaken, this was the person he was supposed to meet, the chairman of Pengzhan Industries, Chu Pengzhan. Chapter 5. Chapter 05. Looking for a partner, Lin Yi nodded with a smile, shaking hands with Pengzhan naturally. Lin Yi handled this sort of social etiquette with ease. Nice to meet you, Mr. Chu. Lin Yi was flattered by Pengzhan's friendliness. It was the first time he'd met such a friendly employer. He was here to carry out a mission, but the chairman of a listed company in the world's top 500 was treating him this way. Lin Yi was curious. Why did it feel like they were meeting on the same level? Mr. Lin, I understand that it might be difficult for you to lower yourself to do something like this, Peng Zhan said after some hesitation. Peng Zhan's words were getting more and more ridiculous, and even someone as thick-skinned as Lin Yi couldn't help but feel embarrassed. I don't need to lower myself. I only earn a couple hundred a month weaving straw sandals at home, and my old man said that this mission is enough for me to live the rest of my life. Lin Yi thought to himself. This employer sure was nice, treating him so politely when he asked him to do something. He wasn't like other people who'd start gossiping after paying him. What? Straw sandals? Peng Zhan paused as he looked at Lin Yi. He wasn't mistaking him for someone else, was he? But what the hell was this guy talking about? Was Elder Lin making him weave straw sandals for a couple hundred a day? Peng Zhan was speechless. He'd heard some things about Lin Yi from his old man, and the reward for rescuing hostages in Africa alone was in the hundreds of millions of USD. How was he making straw sandals for money? Yeah, a pair of straw sandals can be sold for 4 kwai. 3 to 5 pairs a day would be a couple hundred a month. Lin Yi nodded. He, too, felt that something wasn't quite right. The old man didn't seem like a poor man, did he? Peng Zhan couldn't care less about other people's personal business. He shook his head helplessly after hearing Lin Yi's words. Your salary from now on will be 30,000 a month. This includes your school fees and daily expenses. Of course, the money you spend on my daughter will be reimbursed by Li Fu. 30,000? Didn't the old man say it was a few thousand? Lin Yi was stunned for a moment. Such a high salary? If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have brought so much money. He didn't have to see the old man's painful face. Lin Yi remembered the scene when he got the 49,000 yuan from the old man. Wait, Mr. Chu, what did you just say? Going to school? Tuition and fees? And the money spent on your daughter? What did that mean? I don't understand. Lin Yi was puzzled. What did Peng Zhan mean by that? Wasn't he here to carry out a mission? Didn't old Master Lin tell you before? Please come over here. Let's discuss the details upstairs. Peng Zhan smiled faintly as he gestured for Lin Yi to follow him to the elevator. After all, Peng Zhan was his employer now, and the salary he gave him wasn't low at all. Lin Yi didn't understand what Peng Zhan was talking about, but he had seen his fair share of strange missions over the years. So Lin Yi slowed down his pace when he walked with Peng Zhan, making himself look like he was following behind him. Peng Zhan, however, was intentionally walking at the same pace as Lin Yi. Lin Yi naturally noticed it. Why did he feel that Peng Zhan's attitude towards him was a little too friendly? Lin Yi was curious, but he didn't ask. After all, it was his first time meeting Peng Zhan. They weren't very familiar with each other, and some things were better left unsaid. He'd figure it out as time went on. Peng Zhan's office was located on the top floor of Peng Zhan skyscraper. It was 200 square meters big, and one of the walls was covered with floor-to-ceiling windows. Faubert walked out after inviting Peng Zhan and Lin Yi into the office, ordering Xiaoyu to pour some tea for them. Mr. Lin, what would you like to drink? Xiaoyu had learned of Lin Yi's surname from Faubert. Water, please. Lin Yi drank water the most at home, and it was the same when he came out. Xiaoyu paused, but still smiled. All right, please wait a moment. As for what the chairman wanted to drink, she didn't even need to ask. It was the same every day. Mr. Lin, starting tomorrow, Faubert will arrange for you to enter Songshan's first school's 12th grade class 5. You'll be in the same class as my daughter, Meng Yao. You'll go to school with her, take care of her life, and help her with her homework. In other words, you'll be her companion. I've been too busy with my business these past few years, and I feel guilty for not taking care of my daughter. I want to find someone she can talk to and care for her. This is the real reason why I asked you to come. You're around the same age as her, and we're both young men. We should have some common topics, right? Peng Zhan smiled. Lin Yi was stunned. What did he mean by finding someone she could talk to? Care for her? Common topics? It couldn't be, could it? Was this the mission that could feed him for a lifetime? Why did it sound like he was looking for a partner? Could it be that the girl had some sort of biological problem that prevented her from getting married, and was looking for him? Mr. Lin, what's wrong? Peng Zhan seemed to know what Lin Yi was thinking when he saw the shock on his face. I thought that Elder Lin had already told you what you were supposed to do, but it seems like that's not the case. Mr. Chu. Just call me Lin Yi. Mr. Lin's a little awkward. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. To be honest, I really didn't know what I was supposed to do. The old man only said that it was an important mission, and that if I did it well, I'd be able to feed him for a lifetime. Feed him for a lifetime? Peng Zhan paused at Lin Yi's words before laughing out loud. Ha 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 ha, that's right, Elder Lin wasn't lying to you. If you do it well, the reward will be enough for you to feed him for a lifetime. Lin Yi still didn't understand what Peng Zhan wanted him to do. But what exactly is my mission? Didn't I tell you before? You'll accompany my daughter to school, and of course, you'll be responsible for her safety. Don't let anyone bully her. Peng Zhan explained. Study companion? Babysitter? That was the only word Lin Yi could think of. You can think of it that way. That's the truth. Peng Zhan nodded, not waiting for Lin Yi to say anything before handing a document to Lin Yi. This is the information on Songshan's first school. You can familiarize yourself with it. Lin Yi nodded helplessly as he took the document. Was this the super mission the old man was talking about? Damn it. Could it be that I've been tricked again? Just like that time in South America, the old man had told him that he was going to save someone. But how was it a person? It was a group of people. But no matter what, there was a high reward, and the danger level of the mission was relatively low. It was just that he felt like a lackey from a rich family, but it didn't matter. He'd just take it as a break. Songshan's first school was called Songshan's First School, but it was actually a private school a long time ago. The name hadn't been changed when it was bought over. Peng Zhan's Peng Zhan Industries was one of the 3 major shareholders of the school. No wonder he'd been able to get into this school so easily, even though he hadn't even gone to elementary school. Lin Yi hadn't gone to school before, but he knew from the internet how difficult it was for rural kids to go to school in the city. All right, I'll do my job. Lin Yi nodded after looking through the document. Of course, Mingyao's temper isn't too good, but she's a good kid. Peng Zhan smiled bitterly. I believe that you'll be able to get along well with someone as outstanding as you. Get along? Lin Yi didn't expect to get along well with the Mississippi. It wasn't like they were dating, so what was the point of getting along well with her? Lin Yi, however, said, I'll try my best. Peng Zhan seemed to have seen through Lin Yi's perfunctory attitude. He smiled faintly and called out to the door. Faubert, Yao Yao's almost out of school. Go get her and show Mr. Lin around. Mr. Chu, you can call me Lin Yi, or Little E. Don't call me Mr. Lin. It's a bit awkward. Lin Yi said. All right, I'll call you E then. No matter what, I'm still your elder, so you won't lose out. Don't call me Mr. Chu. Just call me Uncle Chu. Peng Zhan nodded, not bothering with the topic any longer. Chapter 6. Shield 1. There were many luxury cars in the parking lot, ranging from Mercedes-Benz to BMWs to luxury cars. Many of them were obviously private cars with flashy decorations on them. It was obvious that they were bought by the employees of Peng Zhan Corporation. From this, it could be seen how high the income of the employees of Peng Zhan Corporation was. It seemed that his 30,000 yuan salary wasn't that high after all. Under Faubert's guidance, Lin Yi came to a dark blue Bentley Elegance 728. The car was a 06 model and it was well maintained. Lin Yi wasn't sure if it was newly bought or if the employees paid attention to it, but the car looked brand new. Mr. Lin, please get in. Faubert opened the door to the passenger seat and sat down. I'll sit in the passenger seat? Then miss? Lin Yi hesitated and asked. Miss always sits in the back row, Faubert said. She has a backpack, so it's inconvenient for her to sit in the front row. Lin Yi nodded and got in the car. Faubert drove the car slowly into the underground parking lot. When the car passed by the security post at the exit, the security guards immediately stood straight and watched the car leave with a serious expression. Faubert's driving skills were very skilled, but it was obvious that it was the normal type. It wasn't the same as what Lin Yi usually learned. Lin Yi was more inclined towards racing. It couldn't be helped, the old man at home had a famous saying, it's not your fault if you can't beat your opponent, but if you can't run away, then you deserve it. Therefore, Lin Yi learned a lot of escaping skills. Although he only used these skills on his old man, in front of others, It was the others who ran away. Mr. Lin, do you know how to drive? Faubert looked at Lin Yi, who was sitting quietly beside him, and asked while waiting for the traffic light. Faubert was an old driver, and he was very accurate in judging people. Generally, when someone was sitting in the car, he could always judge whether this person could drive from some details. However, Lin Yi obviously didn't have any special reaction, so Faubert asked. A little. Lin Yi thought to himself. As a newcomer, it was better to be more humble. Do you have a license? Faubert didn't ask how far he could go if he knew a little. He knew that the boss trusted this person. Not yet. Lin Yi shook his head. Although he knew how to drive and had even raced abroad, he didn't have a driver's license. I just turned 18, so I didn't have time to get one. Well, give me your ID card, I will help you get a driver's license, so that if Mr. Chu and I have something to do, you can drive Miss to and from school. Faubert said. The car stopped near a luxurious-looking school, but they didn't go in. It was probably because the car was too eye-catching, and it wouldn't be good if other students saw it. From the information, Lin Yi already knew that although Songshan's first high school was a private school, it wasn't the kind of school for the nobles. Instead, it was a key school for the entire province. Although there were some rich and powerful children who got in through connections, most of the students got in through their own ability. Because of the support of the three major corporations, Songshan's first high school was better than other schools in terms of hardware, and teaching resources. This was also the reason why the enrollment rate was 100%. In fact, Lin Yi also understood that this 100% was definitely an exaggeration. Some rich kids didn't even know how to study, but they still got into university in the end. This was because of their family's power. The familiar bell rang, and Lin Yi was a little lost. How many years had it been since he last heard this sound? But after a short moment of loss, Lin Yi returned to normal and looked at the school field calmly. Not long after, students came out of the teaching building one after another. Some were wearing school uniforms, and some were wearing other clothes. Generally speaking, if there were no large-scale activities, the school would not have any special requirements for students' attire. That's the Mississippi. Faubert suddenly raised his hand and pointed at a girl in the middle of a group of boys and girls. Lin Yi followed the direction of Faubert's finger. It was a tall and beautiful girl. Although there were other girls beside her, Lin Yi could tell that this was the miss with just one look. Old Lin had said that Meng Yao was the school beauty. The so-called school beauty should be the prettiest one, unless Lin Yi had a problem with his taste. Although the girl beside her was also very beautiful, her body was a little smaller. It was obvious that she didn't match the height stated in the information. But she was still one of the potential school beauty candidates. She would definitely be the type that could bring disaster to the country when she grew up. Meng Yao and the girl were walking quickly towards the car, but a couple of rich boys were chasing after them relentlessly. Meng Yao, wait. One of the rich boys stood in front of Meng Yao. Meng Yao, my feelings for you are real. Please give me a chance. Meng Yao frowned and looked at the guy in front of her impatiently. Zhong Pingliang, you're so annoying. I told you already, I don't like you. Stop bothering me. But... Pingliang wanted to say something else, but Meng Yao pushed him away, putting him on the side. Meng Yao walked over quickly and got in the car. The girl with her got in as well, which surprised Lin Yi a little. This Zhong Pingliang, he's annoying me to death. Doesn't he get tired of pestering me every day? Meng Yao was still complaining after getting in the car when she suddenly raised her head and saw Lin Yi in the passenger seat. Who are you? Hi, I'm Lin Yi. Lin Yi tried his best to look cute. The miss didn't seem to have a good temper. Lin Yi? Faubert. What does he do? Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi, confused. Miss Chu, this is Mr. Chu's study partner. Faubert introduced. Study partner? Who wants a study partner? Didn't I say I wanted a shield? Look at him. Who can he block? Meng Yao panicked. She looked at Lin Yi up and down. What the hell was this guy wearing? A tank top and torn pants. He looked like a migrant worker going to the city. Even migrant workers didn't look like this. Did he think they were singing a duet? Chapter 7. Chapter 07, Lin Yi's Handling Method. Mr. Chu said that Mr. Lin Yi's a multi-talented person, capable of both the pen and the sword. A mere shield wouldn't be a problem for him. Faubert explained quickly. Peng Zhan didn't tell Meng Yao some things because he didn't want her to worry, and he told Faubert not to tell her as well. Inviting Lin Yi was ostensibly to take care of Meng Yao's studies and life, but there was a deeper meaning behind it. It was related to a promise made by the older generation of the family. But it was obvious that Meng Yao wouldn't agree to a study partner out of the blue. But coincidentally, Meng Yao was tired of dealing with her pursuers, and so she went to Peng Zhan, asking him to hire a shield to help her fend off the flies around her. And so, Peng Zhan used Lin Yi as a shield and recommended him to Meng Yao. But Faubert was regretting not bringing Lin Yi to a clothing store to dress him up. From what Faubert saw in Lin Yi's picture, Lin Yi looked quite spirited, but the style was a little too unique for the environment. Meng Yao couldn't see anything special about the man in front of her. He couldn't be some random migrant worker her father found from the labor market, could he? The girl beside Meng Yao covered her mouth and giggled. Lin Yi didn't look like someone who could be Meng Yao's shield no matter how she looked at him. Shoo, what are you laughing at? Meng Yao was already pissed off at her father's perfunctory attitude, and seeing her best friend giggling made her even angrier. She glared at her friend. Yushu stuck out her tongue at Meng Yao's scolding and shut her mouth, but kept her curious eyes on Lin Yi. Faubert, tell him to get off the car. I want a replacement. Meng Yao frowned. She really didn't want to argue on this topic any longer. Mr. Chu said that Mr. Lin Yi would definitely be able to do the job, and he's already signed the contract. Faubert was implying that there was nothing she could do about it. Peng Zhan had already made the decision for her, and there was nothing she could do about it. Ah! Meng Yao blinked her beautiful eyes, on the verge of tearing up. She really didn't know what her father was thinking. If that was the case, why didn't he just have a shield? Wouldn't she be a laughingstock if this person stayed by her side all the time? Meng Yao had wanted to tell the public that this shield was her boyfriend. After all, it was the best way to get rid of all the flies in the house. However, it seemed that it was impossible now. Even if she said that this bumpkin was her boyfriend, people had to believe her first. Zhong Pingliang would probably laugh his head off. Lin Yi listened to their conversation and immediately felt a headache. A shield? This girl wasn't really looking for a boyfriend, was she? No wonder Peng Zhan was acting weird when he talked to her. Could it be that she was looking for a son-in-law? All right, that guy over there wouldn't let go of me. Help me deal with him. If you do it well, I'll consider it a pass. Meng Yao rolled her eyes and came up with a plan. If this guy didn't know how to deal with it, she could use his incompetence as an excuse to get her father to fire him. Lin Yi nodded and got off the car, walking quickly towards Zhong Pingliang. This Meng Yao, I get rejected every time I ask her out. If it were any other girl, they'd jump into my arms already. Zhong Pingliang complained to his lackeys. Master Zhong, this Meng Yao isn't a normal girl. She's the miss of Peng Zhan Industries. It's normal for her to have difficulties. One of Zhong Pingliang's lackeys, Gao Xiaofu, said. I know, I don't need you to tell me that. Pinliang said with a wave of his hand. That's why you need to have perseverance. Before he could finish, he saw a young man in a yellowish-white singlet and khaki-colored pants rushing towards him. Pinliang paused. Lin Yi quickly walked to Zhong Pingliang's side and without a word, raised his leg and kicked Zhong Pingliang's butt, sending him sprawling on the ground. Then, Lin Yi turned around and walked back to the car without looking back. Zhong Pingliang was just about to talk about his thoughts on pursuing Meng Yao when he felt a kick on his butt. He lost his balance and fell to the ground. Who? Do you want to die? How dare you kick me? Zhong Pingliang struggled to get up from the ground, cursing with his face covered in dirt. It's that worker just now, Gao Xiaofu said quickly. Then what are you guys waiting for? Go after him. Zhong Pingliang yelled angrily. Catch him and beat him up. Master Zhong, he's gone. Zhong Pingliang's lackeys were focused on Zhong Pingliang after he was kicked by Lin Yi, but the worker was gone in the blink of an eye. Fuck. Zhong Pingliang cursed. I'll remember what he looks like. I'll print it into a poster tomorrow and send people to all the construction sites to look for him. How dare a worker kick me? I'll make sure he can't live in Songshan anymore. Just you wait. Yao Yao, I didn't know this Lin Yi was so fierce. He even dared to kick Zhong Pingliang? Yushu's eyes were wide open in the car. She couldn't believe what she had just seen. I think he's crazy. Meng Yao didn't expect Lin Yi to do something like that, but it was something else. But Meng Yao had decided not to use him. No matter what he did, he'd still fail. Yao Yao, why don't you keep him? Yu Shu suggested. Shu, who are you siding with? Meng Yao glared at her. You're not in heat, are you? You've fallen for this laborer? Yu Shu shook her head. Yao Yao, you're the one who's fallen for him. Why would you let him stay if you don't like him? To embarrass yourself? Meng Yao didn't know what was going on. No. Think about it. Zhong Pingliang's the king of our school. No one dares to mess with him, and now there's finally someone who's not afraid of him. We'll have a lot of fun in the future. Yu Shu said mischievously. If they fight, Zhong Pingliang won't have time to bother you, right? Fight? You think Zhong Pingliang's that easy to mess with? Meng Yao hit the nail on the head. He's just a worker. Zhong Pingliang's going to beat him to death. Chapter 8. How did you fool my daddy? You're right, we'll stay and watch then. Meng Yao felt that Yu Shu's words made sense, and so she agreed. She turned to Faubert. Faubert, did you buy insurance for him? What if something happens to him? Insurance. Faubert sweated again. How could someone hired by Mr. Chu get into an accident so easily? Don't worry, I got it all. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had walked to the car and got in. He looked at Meng Yao. How was it? Not bad, right? You barely passed. Meng Yao humphed. Lin Yi smiled and went back to the driver's seat. He didn't say anything else. Experience and the internet had taught him that women often didn't mean what they said. Lin Yi wasn't going to argue with Meng Yao. Meng Yao was pissed when Lin Yi only smiled and didn't say anything else. She'd thought he'd say some words of gratitude. After all, with how competitive the society was right now, there were even university graduates who had to scavenge dung. A migrant worker who just entered the city and found a good job like this, shouldn't he be happy about it? Hey, why aren't you thanking me? Meng Yao couldn't hold it in any longer. Thanking? For what? Lin Yi didn't know what was going on. Shouldn't you be thanking me for helping you kick that guy's face to the ground? Thanking you for what? Meng Yao was pissed off. Why was this guy so slow? Didn't he know what she was hinting at? Did he not know how to please his employer? Hee. Yao Yao's saying that she accepted you. Shouldn't you thank her? Yu Shu smiled slyly as she explained for Meng Yao. Shu, what are you talking about? What do you mean I accepted him? Meng Yao jumped at Yu Shu's words. Wasn't that a little too ambiguous? Why does it sound like I'm accepting a confession? It's nothing, I'm just saying that you accepted him as your shield. Yu Shu giggled. Oh, thank you. Lin Yi was very efficient. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that this job was a little weird, he would still be very satisfied. At least the salary was very high. You're welcome. Meng Yao spat the 3 words out of her mouth, furious at Lin Yi's slow reaction. This person is going to be my shield? Why did he look so silly? Yao Yao, I'm leaving. See you tomorrow. And you too, shield bro. The car stopped in front of a villa, and Yu Shu waved at Meng Yao and winked at Lin Yi before getting out of the car. Shield bro? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This name was quite unique. It was comparable to the internet celebrity, Brother Sharp. Yu Shu's house was very close to Meng Yao's, and the 2 villas were right next to each other. The car took a turn, and they arrived at Meng Yao's villa. Under Yu Shu's instigation, Meng Yao reluctantly accepted the worker in front of her. But when she saw the worker walking into the villa with her luggage, she exploded. You! What are you following me for? Lin Yi paused, turning to look at Faubert. Don't I live here? You think too highly of yourself. I've never had a man in my villa before. Meng Yao put her hands on her waist as she yelled at Lin Yi. Faubert wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Never had a man? Then what am I? Faubert thought to himself. It didn't matter if he became a eunuch, but what would Mr. Chu think if he heard what the miss said? Seeing Faubert wipe the sweat off his forehead, Meng Yao immediately understood that her words were a little ambiguous. She quickly corrected herself. I mean, no man outside of my family. Miss, Mr. Chu said that you can treat Mr. Lin like your own brother. So, from today onwards, Mr. Lin will be living in the villa, Faubert said carefully. Faubert knew this girl's temper very well. What? Meng Yao's eyes widened. She pointed at Lin Yi in disbelief. Him? My brother? Are you kidding me? Faubert, take him away. Let him live wherever he wants. I'm afraid I can't make the decision, Mississippi. This is Mr. Chu's order. What do you think? Faubert said, troubled. He was a driver, after all. Although he was Peng Zhan's most trusted person, it was still difficult to be stuck between him and the miss. It's fine. I'll talk to Daddy myself. Meng Yao took out a Nokia E7 from her pocket and dialed it out. It was a free gift from the promotion a while back, and she and Yushu bought one each. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was looking at the phone in Meng Yao's hand longingly. Should he get a phone too? It was too inconvenient to make a phone call. Daddy, it's Yao Yao, Meng Yao said in a coquettish voice. It made Lin Yi's heart go numb. He didn't know that a girl's voice could be so sweet. It's Yao Yao. What's up? Peng Zhan was in the middle of a meeting. He picked up when he saw his daughter's call. It's like this, Dad. What's up? Peng Zhan was in the middle of a meeting. He picked up when he saw his daughter's call. Did you hire him from the farmer's market? Meng Yao was a little pissed. Her father had never treated her like this since she was young. You're talking about E? Haha. Daddy invited him all the way here from Star Mountain. Not only is he knowledgeable, he's also good at martial arts. What's more, his character is even better. Peng Zhan said with a smile. What? Meng Yao didn't understand. What kind of magic potion did the man in front of her feed her father? Why did he say good 3 times in a row? Peng Zhan heard his daughter's words and thought that she was acting coquettishly. He said, Haha. What do you think? Are you satisfied with Lin Yi? Satisfied? How is that possible? First of all, his looks aren't up to standard. He's my shield. I should at least like him, right? Meng Yao humphed. Also, Daddy, how could you ask him to live with me? I'm a girl. It's not safe for me. Yeah. I'm worried about your safety. I'm worried about you living alone in the villa. That's why I asked Yi to accompany you. Don't worry. Yi can protect you. Peng Zhan pretended that he didn't understand his daughter's words. He. Meng Yao didn't know what to say after hearing her father's words. But before she could continue, Peng Zhan continued. All right. Yao Yao. I'm having a meeting with the company's middle management. Let's talk later. Chapter 9. General Weiwu, Part 2. Faubert left Meng Yao's villa with the excuse of picking up Mr. Chu from work. Before he left, he gave Lin Yi a backpack, saying that it was the school uniform and textbooks of Songshan Songshan School. Miss, call me any time if you need anything. I'll deliver dinner at 7 tonight, Faubert said and left in a hurry. Meng Yao didn't know what to say as she looked at the man in front of her. She couldn't just let him sleep on the streets, could she? His father was a well-known philanthropist. If people knew that he mistreated his servants, it wouldn't be a good thing. Meng Yao was angry for a long time before she finally thought of the culprit. She took out her phone and dialed Yushu's number. Hello, Shu, my dad told this worker to stay in my villa. What should I do? Yao Yao, you mean Shield Bro? That's good. I'll go to school tomorrow and tell them that you're living with him. That way, no one will bother you anymore. Yushu was lying comfortably on the bed, watching TV. She heard Meng Yao's words and said casually, Yushu. Meng Yao was furious. She yelled at the phone, You're being too disloyal, aren't you? You told me to keep him, and now you're making sarcastic remarks? You, come to my house right now. Oh, okay, I'll take a shower and sleep. I'll go to school tomorrow morning, Yushu said lazily. I'll break off our relationship if I don't see you in a minute. Meng Yao said firmly. Aya, I'm already naked, and I still need to get dressed. Yushu complained as she sat up from the sofa. She looked at her body in the mirror. She seemed to have a little belly. It seemed like she'd have to eat less in the future. 50 seconds. Meng Yao said as she looked at the call time. Aya, you need to lock the door, right? Yushu quickly put on her clothes. 40 seconds. Meng Yao continued. All right, I'm coming. Yushu put on her shoes and ran out the door. Yushu's villa was only a few dozen meters away from Meng Yao's villa, and there was only a small path between the two. Meng Yao let out a sigh of relief when she saw Yushu's silhouette in the distance. Yao Yao, what are you doing? I was just taking off my clothes and getting ready to take a shower, and you called me out? Yushu complained. Cough, cough. Meng Yao coughed and pointed at Lin Yi. Shu, there's an outsider here, mind your words. Ah, it's fine. Yushu said nonchalantly. It's shield bro, we're on the same side. Since you and he are on the same side, then let him stay in your house. It's decided then. Meng Yao was pissed off at Yushu's gloating face. Ugh. Yushu stuck her tongue out and smiled innocently. Yao Yao, you know me, I like to strip naked when I get home, it's not very convenient for him to move in. So it's more convenient for you to stay at my place? Meng Yao cursed at Yushu in her heart. Man, isn't it a simple matter? Yushu shook her head and said. Yao Yao, you can let him stay at your place, and you can stay at my place, isn't it? And you're right. Meng Yao felt that Yushu had finally come up with a constructive idea. However, Meng Yao wasn't too happy about it. Letting a migrant worker stay in her villa? Why should she? Besides, what if he lost his things? No. I can't let him stay in my villa alone. Meng Yao gritted her teeth. Yushu was in a difficult position. She asked Meng Yao to let Lin Yi stay for fun, but here came the problem. Letting Lin Yi stay in Yushu's villa? Yushu would never agree to it. After hesitating for a while, Yushu finally came up with a compromise. Why don't I stay with you and ask him to stay downstairs? Your room is upstairs anyway. We won't ask him to go up to the second floor. Meng Yao listened to Yushu's suggestion and felt that it was the only way. She nodded unwillingly. Okay, let's do that. Yushu often stayed with Meng Yao, so she entered the villa with ease. Lin Yi, on the other hand, carried his luggage and followed behind slowly. Meng Yao was hostile towards him, and Lin Yi could naturally see it. However, when he thought of the old man's solemn words and Uncle Chu's trusting eyes, Lin Yi didn't think much of it. After all, Meng Yao was a girl. It was normal for her to not want to stay with him. Hey, what's your name? Meng Yao sat on the sofa and threw her slender legs on the bed. She looked at Lin Yi and asked. I'm Lin. Lin Yi said as he tried to sit on the sofa. He'd been standing in front of the door for a long time, and it was quite tiring for him. But before his butt could touch the sofa, a voice called out, startling him. Stop. Don't sit. Meng Yao's eyes were wide open as she pointed at Lin Yi. What's wrong? Lin Yi was startled. His butt was hanging in the air. Your pants are so dirty. Don't dirty my sofa. Shu often lies on it naked. Meng Yao frowned. Yushu rolled her eyes in anger. How could you be like this, Yao Yao? You just told me to watch what I say in front of outsiders, and now you're saying it yourself. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wasn't angered. He'd been on the train for half a day, and he'd been running for half a day. Dirtying the sofa wasn't a big deal, but giving the girl a skin disease would be a big deal. Okay, you can continue. Meng Yao saw that Lin Yi stood up and sighed in relief. My name is Lin Yi, Lin Yi said. Okay, Lin Yi, you can sleep in the guest room over there. But remember, upstairs is my and Shu's room. You can't go up there, or I'll ask my dad to fire you. Meng Yao didn't even have enough confidence when she said this. She didn't know why, but she felt that her father was bewitched by Lin Yi. So she added, if you dare go up there, I'll ask General Wei Wu to bite you to death. Lin Yi nodded indifferently. He heard the second half of Meng Yao's sentence and asked curiously, General Wei Wu? What's that? Hearing Lin Yi's question, Meng Yao shouted proudly, General Wei Wu, come down. Chapter 10. Part 2. Lin Yi snorted disdainfully. Forget a dog, he'd killed countless wolves in the mountains with one slap. A Rottweiler was nothing to him, of course. See that? That's General Wei Wu. I'm telling you, he's very powerful. If you dare go upstairs, I'll tell him to bite you to death. Meng Yao threatened. Got it. Lin Yi nodded. Meng Yao thought that Lin Yi was afraid of General Wei Wu after seeing how careful he was. She was even more pleased with herself. She dragged Yushu upstairs, leaving General Wei Wu to guard the stairs. Lin Yi picked up the luggage and glared at General Wei Wu. General Wei Wu shuddered and took a step back. It seemed to sense that the person in front of it wasn't an ordinary person. It was a dangerous person. Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to play with the dog. He glared at the dog and ignored it. He took his luggage and went to the room Meng Yao mentioned. The room was simple. There was only a bed, a desk, and a small closet. But these things were more than enough for him. He only brought a few tattered clothes with him, and nothing else. What surprised Lin Yi the most was that there was a washroom in the room. It was like a hotel. Lin Yi put his luggage down and took a towel to the washroom. Lin Yi was covered in dust from the long journey. He looked at his watch. It wasn't even 6 yet. Lin Yi decided to take a shower before Faubert came to deliver his food. Lin Yi was very satisfied with his current job and environment. He could live in a hotel every day and get 30,000 kuai. Where else could he find a job like this? It was much better than helping his old man weave straw shoes at home. Shoo, I'm starting to regret it. This Lin Yi doesn't look like someone who can be my shield. Meng Yao complained to Yushu after changing into a set of home clothes. I think he's fine. Yushu laid on the bed, leaning her legs against the wall. She didn't know where she'd read that it could slim down her legs and promote puberty. What's so good about it? I was thinking of finding a handsome guy to pretend to be my boyfriend, but now I've got a country bumpkin. I'll be a laughingstock if I bring him out. Meng Yao gritted her teeth. If you think he's good, then you can be his girlfriend. Meng Yao was pissed off. I'm not in trouble, I don't need a shield. Otherwise, I might really consider it. Yushu said with a shake of her head. You have a brother who is an officer, who would dare to provoke you? If I had a brother who could break a tree with a kick, I wouldn't need to find a shield. Meng Yao knew that Yushu was trying to piss her off on purpose, but who asked Yushu to have a brother while she didn't? Yao Yao, how about, I ask my older brother to find you a god brother in the army? Yushu blinked. How about love bro? Zhong Pingliang would have to stand aside then. Shoo! Meng Yao's eyes went wide as she listened to Yushu's nonsense. What kind of stupid idea is this? You said you'd ask my father to find me a shield, but... Look at him, who did you get? How can he be a shield? And now you're giving me this stupid idea, love bro? That's disgusting. Alright, I'll stop talking. Yushu quickly shut her mouth when she saw that Meng Yao was really angry. She was right, she was the one who gave Meng Yao the idea of finding a shield, but now that the person wasn't to her liking, she had to bear some responsibility as well. Lin Yi had just showered when Faubert came to deliver dinner. He looked through his suitcase, but there wasn't a single decent piece of clothing. Lin Yi couldn't help but complain about how stingy the old man was. Couldn't he just buy him some new clothes? Meng Yao would probably think that he was wearing dirty clothes when he went out, and he wouldn't even be able to sit on the sofa. With no other choice, Lin Yi opened the bag Faubert gave him and put on his school uniform. Both Meng Yao and Yushu were taken aback by Lin Yi's new look. He'd been unkempt before, wearing a tattered singlet and underpants, but now that he'd showered, he looked like a gentleman. Paired with the school uniform, he looked like a completely different person from the migrant worker he used to be. Her first impression of Lin Yi, however, was simply too bad. Meng Yao would never admit that Lin Yi was a handsome guy, no matter what. She could only say that he was stronger and more pleasing to the eye than before. Faubert brought over 4 dishes and a soup. Yuxiang shredded pork, Sichuan poached fish, stir-fried cabbage, and black fungus with spinach. The soup was shiitake mushroom soup. The combination of meat and vegetables was perfect. It had been a long time since Lin Yi had such delicious food. Seeing that Faubert had also prepared his own lunchbox, he happily took it and sat at the table. Lin Yi was just about to pick up his chopsticks when Meng Yao objected. What are you doing? Shu and I haven't eaten yet, and you want to eat first? From now on, Shu and I will eat first, and you can eat if we don't want to. With that, she turned around and went to the kitchen. She had a habit of using silverware when she was young. It was a habit she developed when she lived with her grandpa. So, in the disinfection cabinet in the kitchen, there was a set of silverware that Meng Yao specially used. Lin Yi could only smile bitterly at Meng Yao's domineering attitude. He put away his chopsticks and looked at the food on the table. He could only hold back his saliva. Fortunately, the white rice was his. Lin Yi quickly shoved a few mouthfuls into his mouth. Maybe it was because he ate too fast, but he choked a little. He said with a slurred voice, "Is there anything to drink?" Yushu looked at the man who looked like he hadn't eaten in 8 lifetimes and found it funny. She pointed at the freezer. "What do you want to drink? Help yourself." Lin Yi turned around and saw a big freezer filled with all kinds of drinks. Lin Yi took out a bottle of orange juice and took a big gulp. He felt much better after that. Meng Yao took the cutlery back and started commenting on the dishes on the table with Yushu. Wow, Sichuan poached fish, my favorite. This Yuxiang shredded pork is a little too sweet. That damned chef. Doesn't he know that eating too much sugar makes you fat? I'll get Dad to fire him someday. This cabbage is delicious. Shu, you should try it too. Meng Yao nagged as she ate. These dishes were prepared by the chefs of Pengzhan Industries, and Faubert would deliver them every night. Pengzhan had a lot of social engagements, but Meng Yao's mother had left home when she was very young. Meng Yao didn't know why, but her father refused to tell her every time she mentioned it to him. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. Indirect Kiss. Yuxiang shredded pork for you. Yushu tasted the fish-flavored pork after hearing Meng Yao's words. It was on the sweet side. She'd been on a diet lately, and she couldn't possibly eat sweets. She pushed the plate to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't care if it was sour or sweet, as long as there was meat to eat. He hadn't eaten anything the whole day, so Lin Yi took the plate and started wolfing it down. The taste wasn't bad at all, much better than Widow Wang's snack shop at the head of the village. Be it the colors or the ingredients, they were all very meticulous. How could Widow Wang's sweet and sour pork compare? Wasn't this miss from a rich family a little too picky? Meng Yao picked up a piece of boiled fish and put it in her mouth, tasting it. Her face was red from the spiciness, and she couldn't stop panting as she fanned her mouth with her hand. It's so spicy. But it's so good. Where's the water? Where's the water? Meng Yao turned around and saw the orange juice on the table. She picked it up and gulped it down, finishing half the bottle in one go before putting it down. Yeah, it feels so much better now. Yushu looked at Lin Yi, then at the orange juice on the table, before finally resting her eyes on Meng Yao's mouth. Disbelief was written all over her face. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was staring at Meng Yao blankly. Girls in this city sure were open-minded. She just picked up the bottle he'd just drunk from, and she just put her mouth on it. How violent! Meng Yao was in the middle of eating and drinking, and was about to continue when she saw Yushu looking at her with a weird expression. Shu, what are you looking at me for? It's nothing. Yushu sighed, not daring to tell Meng Yao the truth. With Meng Yao's personality, God only knew what she'd do. It's nothing. Why are you looking at me? Meng Yao was even more confused as she shook her head. She picked up another piece of boiled fish and put it in her mouth, but it was too spicy for her. She picked up the orange juice bottle on the table and started drinking it mouth to mouth. Don't! Yushu wanted to stop her, but it was too late. She swallowed the rest of her words. What do you mean, don't? Shu, what are you talking about? What's wrong with you? Meng Yao put down the orange juice bottle and wiped her mouth with her hand, frowning as she looked at Yushu. I think I'll keep it to myself. Yushu said, amused and sympathetic at the same time at Meng Yao's clueless face. The funniest thing was that Meng Yao had drunk from Lin Yi's drink twice already. Wasn't that enough? Little Shu, why are you stuttering too? What's the matter? Meng Yao wasn't happy. What was he doing, acting all mysterious? Yushu had no choice but to point at the orange juice bottle on the table under Meng Yao's interrogation. This drink. What's wrong with it? Meng Yao frowned. Didn't I just drink your drink? What's wrong with that? There's still a lot of it in the freezer. I'll get you another bottle if you want. Do you really have to be like this? Yushu couldn't hold back her laughter any longer. Haha. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. Yao Yao, haven't you realized? I didn't drink that drink. You didn't drink it? What do you mean? Meng Yao realized something halfway through her sentence and turned to Lin Yi, her expression changing drastically. You drank this drink? Lin Yi nodded innocently. It seemed like he'd misunderstood, thinking that the girls in the city were more open-minded. Fuck! Meng Yao's face went green as her eyes widened. She pointed at Lin Yi, wanting to say something, but nothing came out in the end. She covered her mouth and ran to the washroom. Blarg! Retching sounds came from the washroom. Yushu had been gloating at Meng Yao's misfortune at first, but Meng Yao's reaction was a little too much for her to handle. Yao Yao! I told you I shouldn't say it, but you forced me to. Yushu said apologetically as she looked at Meng Yao with a bitter face. Then why didn't you say it earlier? Blarg. Meng Yao glared at Yushu before starting to retch again. No way. There's a reaction already. Yushu mumbled as she looked at Meng Yao. Mommy said that kissing won't get you pregnant. Meng Yao had just felt a little better when she heard Yushu's words. She felt a wave of nausea wash over her as she remembered the indirect kiss she'd had with that bastard. Tears started falling down her cheeks. The first kiss she'd cherished for 18 years was gone just like that? Meng Yao felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. Almost fainting. She glared at Yushu. Pregnant my ass. Don't you have any physiological knowledge? I don't, do you? Yushu wasn't very happy as well. She was the one who accidentally kissed Lin Yi. What did that have to do with her? Meng Yao was already sad enough, and Yushu was still laughing at her misfortune. Meng Yao gritted her teeth and hugged Yushu tightly, planting her lips on Yushu's. Yushu. Yushu's eyes lit up. Bam. Meng Yao let go of Yushu with a hateful tone. Who asked you to gloat? Now you have a part in it too. Ah. What are you doing? Yushu didn't understand Meng Yao's evil plan until she was kissed by Meng Yao. Now she was involved in it as well. Yushu, on the other hand, felt a little better. She comforted herself that even if Lin Yi's saliva had touched Yao Yao's mouth, she would have spat it out just now. It wouldn't have touched her mouth. Yes, it wouldn't be. Yushu's mood improved a lot at the thought. She looked at Meng Yao, who was rinsing her mouth again and again, and pretended to rinse her mouth as well. After a while, Meng Yao finally calmed down. She understood that even if she rinsed her mouth until her skin peeled off, it wouldn't help. What happened had already happened, and there was no time machine like Doraemon in reality. She couldn't start over again. However, as for Lin Yi, she was going crazy. Letting this person stay in her villa was a huge mistake. Just now, Meng Yao had the urge to kill Lin Yi. It was the kind of urge that was necessary. If she had a knife at that time, she would have stabbed it into Lin Yi's chest without hesitation. Chapter 12. Chapter 12, Adventure in the Cave, Part 1. Yushu followed behind Meng Yao, making a face at Lin Yi before giving him a glare. She then hurried up the stairs. Is there a need for such a big reaction? Lin Yi shook his head as he looked at the food on the table. It seemed like the girls couldn't come down to eat anymore. It was all going to be his. With that, Lin Yi picked up his chopsticks and started gobbling down the 4 dishes and 1 soup like a tornado. Meng Yao fell onto her bed after getting back to her room. She felt really sad and wronged. Why? How could her first kiss be gone just like that? It'd be fine if it was a handsome guy, but it had to be a country bumpkin like Lin Yi. Shoo, tell me, why am I so unlucky? Meng Yao couldn't help but cry out loud. She didn't want to embarrass herself in front of Lin Yi, so she held back her emotions and didn't make a sound. Now that there was only her and Yushu left, she couldn't care less anymore. Lin Yi was there, and Meng Yao didn't want to make a fool out of herself. All right, Yao Yao, don't be sad. It's a good thing it was an indirect kiss, not a direct mouth-to-mouth kiss. He didn't take advantage of you, did he? Yushu thought. At most, you ate some of Shield Bro's saliva, but he didn't get to eat your saliva. Yushu's words made Meng Yao feel even more wronged. She would have accepted it if they'd really kissed, but Lin Yi didn't get to take advantage of her at all. He wouldn't feel sorry for her, but she was the one who was unlucky. No, I've made up my mind. I'll tell my dad tomorrow that I'll be the only one in this house. Meng Yao said hatefully. I have to. Meng Yao was exhausted from all the crying and vomiting. She grumbled for a while before falling asleep. Yushu shook her head as she laid down beside Meng Yao. It was just a little saliva. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like she'd get pregnant, did she? After the meal, Lin Yi was prepared to be scolded. It couldn't be helped, since he was of a lowly status. If this was the old society, he'd be a servant, and if he pissed off the miss, he'd probably be punished. However, after waiting for a long time, no one came down. Lin Yi cleaned up the lunchboxes on the table and returned to his room. It was already 9, and Meng Yao and the others were probably asleep by now. After washing his face and brushing his teeth, Lin Yi locked the door and sat on the bed to practice the art of dragon mastery. The origin of this cultivation technique was very special. He had found it in a cave. He remembered that it was when he was 8 years old. On a full moon night, the old man called Lin Yi to the top of the West Star Mountain to test his recent progress in martial arts. Lin Yi didn't understand why the old man called him to the top of the mountain to test his martial arts in the middle of the night. But under the old man's constant pressure, Lin Yi obediently went to the top of the mountain with the old man. However, after 2 moves, Lin Yi clearly felt that something was wrong. The old man wasn't testing him, he was killing him. Lin Yi was about to say something when he felt a huge force on his butt. The old man had kicked him down the valley with a vicious kick. Lin Yi only felt the wind whooshing in his ears, and he felt like he was flying in the air like Ultraman in an anime. After a long time, Lin Yi fell heavily on the ground with a bang. Lin Yi felt like his bones were about to fall apart. Although the old man had soaked his body in traditional Chinese medicine every day since he was 3 years old to improve his bones and physique, falling from such a high mountain still made Lin Yi dizzy and faint. Looking at the direction where Lin Yi fell, old Lin shook his head and sighed. Lin Yi, it's not that I'm cruel, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The cave door only opens once every 5 years on the mid-autumn full moon. If you don't go in this time, you'll miss the best age for training. Lin Yi didn't know how long it had been before he woke up, cursing old Lin a couple of times for not being nice to him before getting up. There was no helping it. There was no point in cursing at this time. Lin Yi first checked his body and found that there was nothing wrong with it before standing up. However, the scene in front of him shocked Lin Yi. In front of him was a huge mountain gate with a simple design but a majestic aura. The vermilion paint glistened under the moonlight, and the golden door knocker on it gave off a dazzling brilliance. This was like the residence of the gods in the myths. On top of the giant door, there was a plaque with 4 words written on it, Shenyuan Cave Mansion. What is this place? Lin Yi's breathing became a little rushed. He had lived in West Star Mountain for many years, but he had never heard of such a place at the bottom of West Star Mountain. Although Lin Yi didn't know why he stumbled here, and how the old man coincidentally kicked him to the cave door, Lin Yi had a familiar feeling. It was a feeling of déjà vu, as if he had been here before in his dreams. But no matter how hard he racked his brain, he couldn't remember when he'd been here. Lin Yi stood still and subconsciously walked in the direction of the mountain door, as if there was some force pulling him. When he came to the cave door, Lin Yi subconsciously used his hand to push the door. Unfortunately, the cave door didn't move at all. Lin Yi frowned and pulled hard on the cave door, but the cave door still didn't move. Just as Lin Yi was about to turn around and leave dejectedly, something strange happened. Lin Yi realized that the originally closed cave door was slowly opening. At that time, Lin Yi was shocked, thinking that someone was coming out of the cave. He quickly dodged to the side and stared at the cave door. However, Lin Yi waited for a while and didn't see anyone coming out of the cave. Instead, the situation in the cave, Lin Yi could see it clearly. This was a big hall. There was no light inside, but it was still as bright as day. He didn't know what was used to emit such a dazzling brilliance, illuminating the entire hall. The strange scene in front of him made Lin Yi open his mouth in shock. Other than shock, there was no other word to describe Lin Yi's feelings at the moment. After confirming that there were no living creatures in the hall, Lin Yi carefully walked towards the open stone door. With every step, Lin Yi looked around vigilantly until he was sure that there was no danger. Then he continued to walk forward. However, that was also because Lin Yi was still young at that time, and he was more curious about things. If it was the current Lin Yi, perhaps he wouldn't be so impulsive. Chapter 13. Strange Encounter in the Cave, Part 2. Finally, Lin Yi passed through the stone door and stepped into the main hall. There was a huge stone tablet in front of Lin Yi's eyes, with a few sentences written in seal script. On the night of the full moon, the stone door will open. Only the fated may enter. Leave before dawn. The stone door will open again 5 years later. Lin Yi had learned seal script from old Lin when he was young, so he could easily recognize the 8 sentences on the stone tablet. Lin Yi started to ponder the meaning of the 8 sentences after reading them. Night of the full moon, that was easy to understand. Didn't it happen to be a full moon tonight? And the stone door will open, that must be referring to this red stone door. But what did it mean by the fated? Could it be that he was the fated one who could enter? Lin Yi felt that this was a fantasy, and he didn't understand. There wasn't anything special about him, was there? He was an orphan, adopted by old Lin, and lived aimlessly until he was 8 years old. He didn't feel like there was anything special about him, did he? At least compared to old Lin, He didn't have anything special about him. However, since he had come in, he could be considered as the fated person for the time being. And before dawn, that was even easier to understand. It meant that he had to leave before dawn. Did it mean that he had to leave before dawn? That should be the meaning of the literal meaning. But what did it mean when it said that the stone door would open again 5 years later? Could it be that if he didn't leave before dawn, the stone door would close automatically, and the next time it would open would be 5 years later? Lin Yi couldn't help but shiver at the thought. Damn it, this cave. Luckily he could read seal script. Otherwise, he would be done for if he stayed here the whole night like an idiot and the door closed. Not to mention 5 years, even 5 days without food or water would be enough. Now that he knew that there was such a rule in this cave, it shouldn't be a problem for him to get out before dawn. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart slightly relaxed. At this time, Lin Yi got a closer look at the situation inside the main hall. It turned out that the 4 walls of the main hall were inlaid with night pearls, so it was as bright as day inside. Anyone with a bit of knowledge would be able to tell that each of the luminous pearls embedded in the 4 walls was priceless. If one were to be taken out and auctioned in the outside market, it would be priceless as well. However, Lin Yi grew up in the mountains, so he was not very interested in gold, silver, and jewelry. Although he felt that it was wonderful and beautiful, he did not think that these things could be sold at a high price. The key question was, in this mountain, who could he sell it to? The richest person was Widow Wang, who lived at the entrance of the village. Her family owned a snack bar and a small shop. She could save more than 1,000 yuan a year. But no matter how rich they were, who would spend money to buy these impractical things? From Lin Yi's point of view, it was better to buy 2 pieces of fat meat with money. That would be more delicious. The luminous pearls looked good but were useless, and they could not be eaten. Therefore, Lin Yi did not stay too much on the luxurious decorations of the main hall. Instead, he explored around the main hall. According to the novels of Jianghu that he had read, a person who entered a cave or a valley for no reason would have some fortuitous encounter. For example, he would obtain a secret manual of unparalleled martial arts. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart was filled with excitement. If he could find a secret manual of unparalleled martial arts, he would not have to be oppressed by the old man. When he mastered it, the old man would not dare to beat him. The main hall was very big, but it was very spacious. Other than the magnificent decorations on the 4 sides, there were only 2 buildings in the middle of the main hall. One of them was the stone tablet that Lin Yi saw when he entered. And behind the stone tablet was a high platform. The high platform was very similar to the altar used for sacrificial ceremonies in ancient times. It also looked like a place where important things were placed in a sect. In short, it seemed to be from a very long time ago. At least in modern times, similar buildings would not appear. Lin Yi did not think much about it. He ran up the high platform in a few steps. At the top of the high platform, he saw a small antique wooden box. Lin Yi's heart was suddenly excited. Could this be something like a scripture box? Lin Yi carefully picked up the box. After holding the box in his hand, Lin Yi immediately jumped down from the high platform and hid his body. He heard that there were often hidden mechanisms on these ancient buildings. If he touched the treasure of others and some mechanism was activated, then he would be screwed. However, after waiting for a long time, Lin Yi did not see anything special happening. Only then did he secretly let out a sigh of relief. Lin Yi was not in a hurry to open the box. After all, the stone door of the cave would be closed before dawn. The box could be opened when he returned home. Now, Lin Yi decided to use the remaining time to explore this cave again. Bypassing the high platform, Lin Yi was surprised to find that there was actually a stone door behind the high platform. And next to the stone door, there was another small stone tablet. On it, there were also 8 sentences written in seal script. Each sentence had 4 words, just like the stone tablet that he saw when he entered the door before. Lin Yi was surprised and quickly read it carefully. After 5 years, the divine art will be completed. You can only enter by hitting the door with your palm. If you don't get what you want, the divine art will not be completed. Wait another 5 years and come back to test it. After reading these 8 sentences, Lin Yi was suddenly confused. What does, after 5 years, the divine art will be completed mean? Could it be that in the box in my hand, there really is a martial arts secret manual? When I have mastered it, I can just hit the door with my hand and the door will open. Thinking of this, Lin Yi casually pushed the door. Unfortunately, the stone door did not move at all. In that case, the last 4 sentences were easy to understand. If you don't get what you want, the divine art will not be completed. Wait another 5 years and come back to test it. What it meant was that if he could not open the door, it meant that his martial arts practice was not good enough. He needed to wait another 5 years, and when the stone door opened again, he could come back to test it. Looking at the stone door in front of him that could not be opened, Lin Yi suddenly felt a little itchy. Logically speaking, there was a divine art secret manual in the first hall. In the hall behind the stone door, there must be more precious things hidden. However, Lin Yi also understood that with his current ability, it was impossible to open the second door. At best, he was just a fated person. It was already a coincidence that he could open the first stone door and enter this hall. Chapter 14. Art of Dragon Mastery 1. Lin Yi was he'd almost lost track of the time. If he'd missed it and the stone door had closed, he wouldn't have been able to practice any martial arts at all. Unless he became an immortal and didn't need to eat or drink, he'd starve to death sooner or later. When the first rays of the sun from the east shone upon the valley, the stone door in front of Lin Yi creaked and closed without any warning. After the stone door was closed, Lin Yi came to the stone door again, but this time, no matter what he did, the stone door didn't move at all. It didn't look like it was going to open. It seemed that the 8 sentences on the first stone tablet hadn't lied to him. If the stone door was closed, it wouldn't be able to be opened again. He'd have to wait 5 years before he could open it again. While Lin Yi was a little disappointed, it was a good thing that he'd gotten his hands on the secret manual. He'd have to go back and study it before making a decision. "Yi, are you all right?" A familiar voice sounded from behind Lin Yi. Lin Yi turned around to find that old Lin had somehow appeared behind him. "Fuck! Old man, are you trying to kick me to death? You sent me flying from such a high mountain. Do you really think I'm Superman?" Lin Yi's bones were still aching from his fall last night. "You're not dead, are you?" Old Lin breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Lin Yi was fine. While he'd been calm on the outside, he was actually quite nervous. After all, Lin Yi had fallen from such a high mountain. While his body had been soaked in his own herbal medicine, old Lin wasn't too sure. "I'm not dead, but I'm pretty much dead." Lin Yi hesitated on whether or not he should tell old Lin about what he'd seen and heard, but decided to tell him everything in the end. Old Lin was more knowledgeable, after all. "Old man, I entered this cave yesterday," Lin Yi said, pointing at the stone door not far behind him. Yes. Old man Lin had already seen the box in Lin Yi's hand, and knew that he must have gone to the cave last night. However, now that he heard Lin Yi personally admit it, he was still very happy in his heart. At the very least, Lin Yi did not treat him as an outsider, and he did not raise Lin Yi in vain. Then, Lin Yi didn't know what old Lin meant, so he told old Lin everything he saw and heard after entering the cave. Finally, he handed the box to old Lin and said, "This is the box. Keep it for yourself." Old Lin glanced at the box and said indifferently, "Aren't you going to take a look?" Lin Yi was puzzled. Why didn't old man Lin care about such an amazing thing? "It's useless." Old Lin shook his head. Although Lin Yi had a lot of questions, old Lin's "don't ask me," and "do whatever you want" attitude made Lin Yi want to say something, but he didn't. Together with old Lin, they returned home from the fork in the valley with great difficulty. Old Lin fell asleep on the bed, leaving Lin Yi holding the box and staring at it. Since old Lin was so indifferent, Lin Yi could only study the thing in the box by himself. Lin Yi put the box on the broken square table and began to study it. The small box was antique, just like the wooden boxes used to store imperial edicts or elixirs in the past. However, it was not locked. After Lin Yi opened the buckle on the box, the lid could be easily opened. Lin Yi's eyes widened, and his breathing began to quicken. Finally, the lid of the box was opened. Inside was a silk scroll. He picked up the scroll and saw a jade pendant at the bottom of the box. Lin Yi quickly picked it up and put it under the light to look at it carefully. The quality of the jade pendant was very good, but it was very strange. There was a totem-like pattern carved on it, and there were words that Lin Yi couldn't understand. It was definitely not seal script. This jade pendant was obviously not the same as the words on the scroll. This made Lin Yi feel a little strange. Logically speaking, whether it was in the cave or on the scroll, the words should be the same, but this jade pendant was very special. Later, Lin Yi also asked old Lin about the jade pendant, but old Lin didn't know what it was for. When old Lin saw the jade pendant, he showed a very surprised expression. This expression was even more surprised than when he saw Lin Yi take out a box from the cave. Later, Lin Yi could only rely on his own deduction to guess that this jade pendant was used for training, so he always wore it on his body. Lin Yi carefully opened the scroll, but he was slightly disappointed. The scroll was very thin, only a silk handkerchief. However, Lin Yi had read those martial arts novels, and he understood that the powerful secret manuals did not depend on the number of words. Mei Chaofeng's 9-in white bone claw could be written on a piece of human skin. Therefore, Lin Yi still read the scroll with a very hopeful attitude. The words, Art of Dragon Mastery, were immediately reflected in Lin Yi's eyes. The same words, the same as the words on the stone tablet in the main hall of the cave. However, under the title of these words, there was a line of small words. First stage, Heavenly Silkworm. Then came the main text, Mortals are like ants, how can they change the great Tao and control the world? Lin Yi quickly scanned the main text. The first stage was divided into early, middle, and late stages. However, on this page, there was only the first stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery. Of course, Lin Yi would not be stupid enough to think that the Art of Dragon Mastery was only the first stage. Since there was a first stage, there must be a second and third stage. As for where the rest of the scrolls were, Lin Yi did not know. Perhaps it was in the stone door at the back of the main hall, or perhaps somewhere else. Everything had to wait until he completed the first stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery before he could make any other plans. Although the introduction of the Art of Dragon Mastery was hard to understand, the process of practicing it was very detailed, and there was even a diagram of the human body's acupuncture points for reference. This was not a difficult thing for Lin Yi, who had been practicing martial arts since he was a child. At this moment, Lin Yi did not think too much about it, and began to practice the first stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery, the Heavenly Silkworm Scroll. It was precisely because Lin Yi was still young that he did not have any reservations, and thought that he could defeat old Lin if he practiced a more advanced martial art. From the start, he did not even consider whether practicing this would conflict with his current martial arts, or whether it would cause him to go berserk. Chapter 15. Chapter 15, Adult Channel. Old Lin, on the other hand, allowed Lin Yi to train in the Art of Dragon Mastery. He didn't give any guidance, but he didn't interfere either, allowing Lin Yi to develop as he pleased. But, after practicing the Art of Dragon Mastery, Lin Yi felt that his body's strength had increased noticeably. But his martial arts didn't seem to have changed much. No matter what, he wasn't old Lin's match. Old Lin was like a boss in a game. When Lin Yi grew stronger, he grew stronger. When Lin Yi grew weaker, he grew weaker. It was something that made Lin Yi rather depressed. If Lin Yi had to point out something that had changed, it would be that his senses were much sharper than before. His sight and hearing were much sharper than before. Day after day, year after year, Lin Yi had basically mastered the first stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery without anyone's guidance. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. It was another full moon night, and Lin Yi once again entered the cave at the foot of West Star Mountain. Unfortunately, this time, Lin Yi didn't open the stone door at the back of the hall. Lin Yi wasn't surprised by this result. He knew that he hadn't broken through the first stage of Celestial Cocoon. There was no progress after mid-stage. While Lin Yi told old Lin what had happened to him, the old man only smiled and shook his head, expressing that there was nothing he could do to help. It was almost time for the second 5 years, and Lin Yi was getting more and more anxious. It had been so many years, and he was still stuck at the mid-stage of the first stage. If this continued, he'd have to return empty-handed. Now Lin Yi understood that the Art of Dragon Mastery he was training wasn't a martial art, but a secret manual similar to that of a cultivator. It sounded a little shocking, but Lin Yi knew that this was indeed what he was cultivating. Recalling Old Man Lin's strange actions on the night of the first full moon, Lin Yi even suspected that all of this was premeditated by Old Man Lin. Old Man Lin had purposely set up a trap to kick him off the West Star Mountain and then enter the stone door. Otherwise, why did Old Man Lin have to test his martial arts in the middle of the night of the full moon? Even if he wanted to take the exam, there was no need to go to the top of the mountain, right? Even if he ran to the top of the mountain, you can't kill him, right? Even if they wanted to kill him, they couldn't have kicked him to the entrance of the cave so coincidentally, right? Fine, even if he coincidentally kicked him to the entrance of the cave, why did Old Lin wait until he came out of the cave before looking for him? When he told Old Man Lin what he had seen and heard, Old Man Lin's indifferent expression made it seem as if he already knew what was going to happen. All of this made Lin Yi very suspicious. However, every time Lin Yi asked Old Man Lin about his suspicions, Old Man Lin didn't answer him. In the end, Lin Yi didn't bother to ask anymore. Who cares if he did it on purpose or not? He had to cultivate on his own. When Lin Yi woke up from his meditative state, the sky outside the window had already turned white. Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. Although he felt some progress every time he stopped cultivating and felt refreshed, he still didn't have a big breakthrough. He quickly ran to the bathroom to take a cold shower and wash off the sweat stains on his body. Lin Yi put on his school uniform and walked out of the room. The whole villa was still quiet. Lin Yi raised his head and looked in the direction of the stairs. The two girls should still be sleeping, right? Lin Yi sat on the sofa and turned on the 60-inch large LCD TV in the living room. He turned off the sound and watched it. A large TV was really cool. Lin Yi leisurely lay on the sofa. This was the first time he had watched such a cool TV. In the past at home, other than his fake internet laptop that could display his figure, there was only a 25-inch ordinary flat-screen CRT TV. Achoo! Lin Yi sneezed. He didn't expect his body to catch a cold. However, he remembered that he had always lived in the south, and this was the north. Although it was summer, the temperature difference between day and night was relatively large, so it was normal for him to not be acclimatized. Lin Yi casually took out 2 pieces of tissue from the box on the coffee table, wiped his snot, and threw them aside. However, there were no programs on most channels so early in the morning. Lin Yi pressed the button on the remote control in his hand to change the channel. However, after pressing it for a long time, there was no response from the TV. It was still the image of Earth with no programs. Fuck, this remote control can't be out of battery, right? Lin Yi cursed in his heart, but then he thought about it. That's not right. Didn't I just use this remote control to turn on the TV? Thinking of this, Lin Yi carefully observed the direction of the TV. It turned out that the villa was installed with a satellite TV. It needed the remote control of the satellite TV box to change the channel, and the remote control of the TV could only control the power and volume. Although Lin Yi came from the mountains in the countryside, because old Lin bought him a fake internet laptop, he had some understanding of some technology and knowledge outside through the internet, so he wasn't too illiterate at this time. After looking around, he really found the remote control of the satellite TV box under the coffee table. Lin Yi picked up the remote control and began to change the channel of the TV. This satellite TV is really cool. There are so many channels. Lin Yi changed dozens of channels, but he still didn't find a repeat. This channel is an adult channel. Parents have been set up to be locked. Please enter the password. The default password is 000000. When Lin Yi changed the channel, this line of notification appeared on the TV. No way. These two girls have adult channels in their house? Lin Yi had heard that Big Pot could be used to watch some adult programs, but he had never seen one in real life. Although Widow Wang's house also had a satellite TV, the only channels she could watch were the free satellite TV stations. Adult channels like this were impossible to watch. Lin Yi's heart itched. He didn't know if it was the password set by Chu Pingzhan, or was it Miss Meng Yao? Or was it Yushu? Yes, it was very possible. That girl looked like a slut, and her words were quite avant-garde. Lin Yi thought lustfully. He entered the password, 123,456. But the TV prompted, "The password you entered is incorrect, please re-enter." 888888. Lin Yi keyed in another password, and the TV prompted again, "Wrong password, please try again." Lin Yi scratched his head and entered 000000 this time. There was no password error this time, but it seemed to be stuck. He didn't know if it was trying to verify the password, or if it was dead. Chapter 16. Caught in the act. It was a rather famous AV actress in Japan, Hamasaki something. Lin Yi couldn't remember her name, but she was a voluptuous big-chested girl. Lin Yi had seen her videos before, and it had left a deep impression on him. What Lin Yi didn't expect was that the password was the initial password. It was written clearly on the TV, and yet he was still trying it out. This was the first time Lin Yi had watched an AV on such a big screen. He'd always done it on his 10-inch laptop before, and he couldn't see anything clearly. This time, he could watch it however he wanted, and it was in high definition too. Lin Yi's blood surged, and he almost ran to the TV to watch it. Yawn. I'm so sleepy. Damned Yao Yao, you've been messing with me the whole night. I can't sleep now. Yushu's voice came from the second floor, followed by the sound of slippers coming down the stairs. Lin Yi's hearing was sharper, and Yushu's voice was soft, but Lin Yi heard every single word. Lin Yi was startled. He'd be screwed if Yushu caught him watching an AV in the living room. Lin Yi was standing beside the TV, and it was too late for him to go back and get the remote. He could only turn off the TV. Then, he stood on the edge of the window and pretended to look outside. Lin Yi couldn't help but curse his unluckiness inwardly. He'd gotten himself into an indirect kiss on the first day, and if Yushu were to catch him watching AVs in the living room today, he'd be kicked out for sure. Lin Yi wasn't too keen on being the Mrs. Study companion, but the pay was high, and he got to eat and drink well every day. It wasn't easy to find another job like this. The main problem was that he hadn't resigned on his own accord, but because the miss had kicked him out, and for this reason at that. He'd probably never be able to raise his head again if old Lin were to find out about this. Lin Yi sighed, blaming himself a little. Why did he have to try out the initial password for no reason? But it was Meng Yao's fault. Didn't she know how to change the password? Ah! Yushu jumped in fright when she saw someone standing by the window. She almost screamed out loud, but luckily she reacted fast enough to cover her mouth when she remembered that Meng Yao had just fallen asleep. What are you doing here so early in the morning? Yushu, too, realized that the person standing there was none other than Lin Yi, the one who'd caused Meng Yao so much trouble for the entire night. I couldn't sleep, so I got up. Lin Yi felt guilty and looked a little embarrassed. Oh! Yushu didn't think much of it. She frowned. When you wake up, just stay in the room. You almost scared me to death. Yao Yao and I are used to it. It's hard to get used to having another person in the room. Okay. Lin Yi swore to himself that he'd never watch AVs in the living room ever again. It was too freaking scary. This little girl Chen's work and rest were irregular, and she was almost caught red-handed. Yushu stretched her back and sat on the sofa, her calves raised. It was a tempting sight, but Lin Yi didn't dare look too long. His blood was already boiling from watching AVs, and his lower body was still very stiff. It'd be so awkward if Yushu saw it. Lin Yi, I'm hungry. Go get me something to eat. Yushu ordered lazily. Me? Get me something to eat? Lin Yi was a little startled. Since when did he become a housekeeper? He had to cook? You. Hurry up, I'm hungry. Yushu waved her hand impatiently. Lin Yi was a little helpless. Why was Yushu ordering him around? Wasn't he supposed to be serving Meng Yao? Miss Chen, I was sent by Mr. Chu to accompany Miss Chu. I'm not a nanny. Isn't that the same? Back in the old days, a study companion was like a servant in the house, just a little higher than a servant. You'd have to do whatever the miss tells you to do. Yushu glared at Lin Yi as she spoke with conviction. But I'm Meng Yao's servant. Lin Yi was used to cooking, but there had to be some sort of status, right? Meng Yao's smile was flirtatious and seductive, but Lin Yi wasn't an idiot. What if Meng Yao woke up and saw him cooking for Yushu? Wouldn't she find fault with him? Isn't that the same? Yao Yao and I are good friends. What I said is what she said. Meng Yao was a little annoyed that Lin Yi didn't respond to her at all. She had a good impression of Lin Yi, but who knew that he'd be so stupid? She wouldn't even bother asking a guy to serve her, but this guy was putting on airs. She humphed. Forget it. Go get me the water dispenser. I'll eat the instant noodles myself. Okay. It was no trouble at all. The water dispenser was beside Lin Yi, on the windowsill. Lin Yi reached out and turned it on. While the water was boiling, Yushu picked up the remote on the sofa and pressed the power button. Every morning at this time, Su Shihan's music videos were on the entertainment channel. Yushu would watch them whenever she had the time. Wait. Lin Yi was startled. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. The AV channel that Lin Yi was watching appeared on the screen. The girl called Hamasaki or something had finished the foreplay, and she was fighting it out with a man. Oh! Yushu screamed and covered her mouth. Her eyes were wide open as she stared at Lin Yi with a murderous glare. Ugh! Lin Yi wanted to die. What the hell was this? Who was playing with people like this? He hadn't even looked at it a few times, and he was already caught red-handed. Wasn't he just too unlucky? He'd admit it if he liked it, but what the hell was going on here? It wasn't me. Lin Yi didn't want to admit it. Lin Yi, how could you watch something so obscene? Yushu was about to explode. Wasn't this Lin Yi a little too immoral? No wonder he woke up so early in the morning. He'd come to the living room to watch the AV channel. I told you it wasn't me, Lin Yi said innocently. He'd clicked on this channel by accident. If you didn't want people to see it, you shouldn't have opened this channel. Wasn't it there for people to see? Chapter 17. Injustice Part 2. Lin Yi wasn't expecting Yushu to remember it that clearly. There was no point in denying it now. He lowered his head and admitted it. All right, it's an accident. I keyed in a random password out of curiosity. I didn't think I'd get into this channel. I didn't watch it, I turned it off when I saw it was this channel. Really? Yushu, naturally, didn't believe him. She looked at Lin Yi suspiciously. Of course it's true, Lin Yi said with a wronged look on his face. He was basically telling the truth. Humph. Yushu humphed coldly. She didn't want to argue with Lin Yi on this topic, either. She picked up the remote from the coffee table and was about to change the channel when her eyes stopped on a ball of toilet paper on the coffee table. The toilet paper wasn't wrapped tightly, and there was some sort of sticky liquid inside. What's this? Yushu's face went green as her voice started shaking. Good, Lin Yi, you're actually in Yao Yao's house, watching porn videos and doing something so despicable. What's wrong with me? Lin Yi blinked as he followed Yushu's line of sight to the coffee table. He remembered something when he saw the ball of toilet paper he'd used before. Fuck, it couldn't be that unlucky, could it? Lin Yi knew that Yushu must have misunderstood the situation. That ball of toilet paper, that sticky thing, and the AV video he'd watched. It was only natural that people would suspect something. Lin Yi felt like he'd been wronged. What the hell was going on? Yushu. Don't get the wrong idea. I've just come to the north, and I'm not used to the climate here. I've got a cold, and this is the paper I use to wipe my snot. You can look at it yourself if you don't believe me, Lin Yi said as he picked up the ball of toilet paper from the coffee table. Take it away, Yushu screamed. I don't want to see something that disgusting, Lin Yi, you bastard. Lin Yi felt a little awkward, but there was nothing he could do about it. Yushu didn't believe him, and he couldn't just force her to see it, could he? She could only take the tissue away resentfully. Believe it or not, I'm really not. Yushu rolled her eyes as an idea came to her. I've changed my mind. I don't want instant noodles anymore. Go cook for me. Ha! Lin Yi was stunned and asked. Why? Humph, because I have your secret in my hands. If you don't go, I'll tell Uncle Chu that you've been fucking in front of the TV at home, scaring both Yao Yao and me. Yushu smiled evilly. A few black lines appeared on Lin Yi's forehead. He was wrongly accused. But how was he going to reason with this matter? If the old man found out, his life would be over. Lin Yi took 2 deep breaths and gritted his teeth. You win. Ruthless? Not as ruthless as you. You can even do something so shocking. Yushu didn't back down at all. Lin Yi was a little speechless. Although he admitted defeat, he didn't forget to take revenge on Yushu. But do you dare to eat the food made by my hands? Oh, no problem. The book said that it's all protein, and eating it will make you look good, Yushu said nonchalantly. Lin Yi was completely speechless this time. Yushu was much harder to deal with than Meng Yao. Meng Yao hated him at most, but this girl was thinking of ways to mess with him. However, what surprised Lin Yi was that Yushu seemed to be a different person now. She just said that it was disgusting and told him to take the tissue away, but now she said that she ate beauty food. What do you want to eat? Lin Yi asked. Anything is fine. I don't know what's in the kitchen. Go take a look. Yushu shifted her body into a more comfortable position, lying on the sofa seductively, her smooth calves peeking out of her pajamas. She was even swaying back and forth, causing some parts of Lin Yi's body to start reacting again. Okay. Lin Yi was afraid that Yushu would notice his embarrassment, so he walked towards the kitchen with his body bent. He hadn't even taken 2 steps when Yushu called out to him. Shield bro, what's wrong? Why do you have to learn? Yushu saw that Lin Yi was bending his body, but when she saw Lin Yi's lower body, she immediately understood what Lin Yi was doing. She blushed and turned her face away. So dirty. Lin Yi didn't bother explaining. Since he'd been discovered, he straightened up and walked towards the kitchen. Yushu looked at Lin Yi's back, a sly smile on her face. Humph. Did he think that Miss Lin was an idiot? Didn't he know that it was snot? She'd learned about it in health class in school. It was milky white in color, and had a special smell to it that could be smelled from afar. Yushu hadn't smelled semen before, but she'd been sitting on the sofa for so long that she hadn't even noticed the toilet paper in front of her. Evidently, there wasn't any special smell to it. Most importantly, it was said on the internet that a man's lower body would become soft after doing it, and the way he was doing it just now didn't look like he was venting at all. But Yushu, of course, wouldn't tell Lin Yi about this. She'd use this as leverage to blackmail Lin Yi. Humph. Let's see if he'd dare disobey her next time. Having a free follower was great. Yushu smelled the aroma coming from the kitchen, and felt that her decision had been a wise one. Lin Yi was surprised when he entered the kitchen. The facilities here were quite good, much better than the big stove he had back in the village. Everything was so modern. He saw a cute little apron hanging on the wall. It was a SpongeBob SquarePants pattern, but it looked very new. It shouldn't have been used much. Thinking about it, these two girls were well taken care of. It was impossible for them to cook by themselves. Lin Yi put the apron on and started looking for ingredients in the kitchen. There were tomatoes, spinach, celery, and some other vegetables in the cabinet. There were also some eggs, but the amount was small. Faubert probably prepared it for Meng Yao just in case. He didn't know if Meng Yao would cook for him or not, but as Peng Zhan's most trusted person, Faubert would naturally take everything into consideration. He looked at the staples. There was flour and rice. Lin Yi planned to make some noodles with the flour and make some plain noodles. He was hungry anyway. Chapter 18. Eat, eat, and you'll get used to it. Lin Yi got to work on the soup after he was done. In fact, it wasn't like a restaurant where one could boil a big pot of soup and store it for backup every day. Lin Yi's soup stock was a box of kalu soup broth he'd found in the cupboard, a concentrated type of soup stock. It was the first time Lin Yi had seen something like this, but it didn't look bad at all. The aroma wafted through the air as soon as it was put into the pot. Lin Yi stir-fried the vegetables in the soup, added the seasonings, and added some water. It didn't take long for the soup to be ready. On the other hand, Lin Yi wasn't idling around too. He boiled a pot of water and put the ramen in. He flipped it open and scooped out the noodles, placing them into 2 bowls before pouring the broth over them. 2 bowls of fragrant Yangchun noodles were done. Strictly speaking, Lin Yi's Yangchun noodles weren't made according to the standard procedures, but it had a different flavor to it. His old man loved Lin Yi's noodles the most. There were still some noodles left in the pot, and Lin Yi estimated that 1 bowl would be enough for Yushu. The leftovers were just enough for him to eat. Are you done? Yushu couldn't help but swallow as she smelled the aroma. She put on her slippers and stomped into the kitchen, calling out to Lin Yi. Yep, I was just about to call you over. Lin Yi said as he took off his apron and hung it on the side. Yay, you used Yao Yao's apron. Don't let her know. Yushu said as she looked at the apron on the wall. I'll keep it a secret since you're cooking for me. Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Since when did Yushu become this nice? But on second thought, he realized that Yushu was a really bad person. He could tell from the gloating look on Meng Yao's face when she drank his water yesterday. She probably didn't have any good intentions this time, but what she thought had nothing to do with Lin Yi. As long as Meng Yao didn't use this opportunity to cause trouble for him, he'd be fine as long as he stayed at her side. Yushu frowned at the fact that Lin Yi was eating in front of her. It made her a little uncomfortable to see a man eating in front of her. But when she thought about the fact that Lin Yi was the one who made all these fragrant noodles, it didn't seem right to chase him away. She held it in and decided to fill her stomach first. Yushu had never tasted noodles this good before. She usually went to school with some milk or instant noodles in the morning, and this was her first time eating handmade ramen like this. Yushu, on the other hand, was afraid that Lin Yi would get cocky. She didn't say it out loud though, as she kept her head down to finish the noodles in front of her, ignoring Lin Yi. Lin Yi was even happier that Yushu wasn't paying attention to him. He'd been worried that the girl would find fault with him again. He finished the noodles in his bowl like a whirlwind, and went to get a second bowl. But he remembered Yushu when he got to the pot. You still want to eat? It's fine. Yushu shook her head. Go get me a glass of water. Isn't there a drink behind you? Lin Yi said as he pointed at the freshness cabinet behind Yushu before getting himself a bowl of noodles. It's not good to drink fruit juice in the morning. Drinking plain water is healthier. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Are you coming or not? Yushu glared impatiently. Fine. Lin Yi put the noodles on the table and went to the living room to get Yushu a glass of water. He couldn't help it. The other party had a handle on him. Where's your glass? Lin Yi was halfway there when he remembered that he didn't see Yushu's glass. How was he supposed to get her a glass of water? Oh, in the cabinet under the water dispenser. The pink one is mine. Yushu said. Lin Yi nodded and walked to the water dispenser. Ah, I'm so sleepy, that damn alarm clock. Meng Yao yawned as she walked downstairs in a daze. She hadn't had a good night's sleep, and she'd spent the first half of the night thinking about how she'd lost her first kiss. She'd cried and complained to Yushu for half the night, and when she finally fell asleep, she wasn't as sad about what happened yesterday anymore. However, Meng Yao felt that she hadn't slept for long before she was woken up by the alarm clock. She didn't want to wake up at first, but she remembered that she had to go to school today. Meng Yao was a little puzzled when she realized that Yushu wasn't by her side. She'd been talking to her the whole time, but didn't Yushu sleep really late? Why was she up so early? She smelled the aroma of rice when she got downstairs. Meng Yao didn't eat much last night, and she vomited out everything she ate. Her stomach was empty, and she started drooling as soon as she smelled the aroma. Shoo, what did you eat? It smells so good. Why didn't you wake me up? Meng Yao ran to the dining room and saw Yushu finishing a bowl of noodles, and in front of her was a steaming hot bowl of noodles. She was delighted. Ha, I knew you wouldn't forget me, Shu. You even prepared a portion for me. Thank you. Yushu was drinking the noodle soup when she heard Meng Yao's words. She was about to say something when she realized that Yushu had already picked up her chopsticks and started eating. Ugh, Yushu sighed. She wanted to say something but stopped. She thought, don't blame me, it's your fault for being so fast. I haven't even said anything, and you're already eating it. It smells so good, so delicious. Meng Yao was really hungry. She couldn't put down her chopsticks after a mouthful of noodles. She praised as she ate. Shoo, where did you buy this? I didn't buy it. Shield Bro made it. Yushu shrugged and looked at Meng Yao with sympathy. She couldn't bear to hurt Meng Yao's weak heart anymore. Ah! Meng Yao was shocked. He made it. I don't want to eat his food. She put down her chopsticks as she spoke. Yushu thought, what's the point of saying that you don't want to eat it now? But it's good that you ate Lin Yi's saliva yesterday, so it doesn't matter today. You'll get used to it after eating it. Haha, Yushu thought evilly. Humph, who doesn't like food? I'll eat it. Meng Yao put down her chopsticks, salivating. She couldn't say no to the delicious noodles in front of her. She picked up her chopsticks again. Eating his food doesn't mean I'll forgive him. I just didn't eat anything last night. And I'm hungry. This noodles is just as right, Shu? Chapter 19. Chapter 19. Wait, your water. Lin Yi made his way back to the dining room after pouring some water, only to find Meng Yao sitting in his seat, eating his noodles. Hey, Shu said the noodles you cooked for us were really good. Yushu turned around and took the cup of water from Lin Yi, glaring at him as if telling him to shut up. Oh. Lin Yi nodded, understanding what Yushu was getting at. He wasn't full yet. He should have cooked more if he'd known. What are you doing standing here? I can't eat with you standing here. Meng Yao hadn't noticed the little action between Lin Yi and Yushu, and frowned when she saw him standing there. Meng Yao wasn't used to letting men watch her eat. Lin Yi turned around and walked out of the dining room, heading back to his room. There was no need to get angry at a miss like that. Yushu was a little weird, but she was a lot easier to talk to than Meng Yao. Lin Yi decided to go back and pack his backpack. He'd finished all the high school courses by himself, but it was his first day at school anyway. He had to at least go through the motions, right? It's so good. Is there more? Meng Yao said, finishing the whole bowl of noodles. Not a single drop of soup was left. No. I'll ask Shield Bro to make more for you if you want more. Yushu said, puzzled. Why wasn't Meng Yao fat at all? Meng Yao ate more than her every time, but she was a few kilos thinner than her. Yushu wasn't fat, actually, but she wasn't as tall as Meng Yao, and that was why she looked a little buxom. Fortunately, all the extra fat was on her breasts and buttocks, which made Yushu feel a little proud of herself. Don't mention him, Meng Yao said, licking the soup off her chopsticks again, feeling a little regretful. Asking her to beg Lin Yi for help? Dream on. Yushu's face darkened at Meng Yao's action. Why do you like Lin Yi's saliva so much, Yao Yao? After the two finished the noodles, they went upstairs to wash up and change their clothes. Lin Yi, on the other hand, came to the dining room and cleaned up the dishes on the table. Of course, he didn't know that he didn't actually need to clean up. Faubert would send servants to clean the villa every day. However, Lin Yi was used to doing these things when he was at home, so he didn't find it inappropriate. When Lin Yi was washing the dishes, General Wei Wu sneaked into the kitchen. When he saw Lin Yi, he widened his eyes with hostility and looked at Lin Yi cautiously. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with him. General Wei Wu saw that Lin Yi was ignoring it, so it stared at Lin Yi for a while and left. It had to be said that dogs were very sensitive animals. They could keenly sense existences that were more dangerous than themselves. It was just that Lin Yi didn't do anything aggressive, so General Wei Wu didn't dare to provoke him. He quickly washed the dishes and put them into the disinfection cabinet. Meng Yao and Yushu had already washed up and changed out of their home clothes into beautiful clothes. Although the school had a rule that all students should wear uniforms to school without any special circumstances, very few people followed this rule, especially high schoolers. They were more assertive and not as obedient as primary school students. Of course, there were exceptions, such as Lin Yi. Lin Yi was very happy as he touched the material of the uniform. The quality was really good, much better than the clothes he brought. So to Lin Yi, this was the best piece of clothing he had. Lin Yi had worn a lot of high-end clothes when he went out with old Lin, but the old man always said that they were rented, and that he'd return them after the trip. At 7 sharp, Faubert's car appeared in front of the villa. Meng Yao and Yushu carried their cute backpacks out of the villa, and Lin Yi followed behind them. Lin Yi sat in the front passenger seat, and Meng Yao and Yushu sat in the back. Faubert started the car slowly and asked Lin Yi, "How is it? Are you used to it?" "It's good." Lin Yi nodded. "I'm not good." Meng Yao didn't wait for Faubert to speak. "I'll call my dad right now. Mr. Chu went to Newport for a meeting this morning. He's on the plane now," Faubert said. "Miss Chu," Mr. Chu said that Lin Yi will be in charge of taking care of you when he's not here. "Him? Take care of me?" Meng Yao's eyes widened. "Look at him, Faubert. How can he take care of me? I'm just passing on Mr. Chu's words. Mr. Chu trusts Mr. Lin Yi a lot." Faubert didn't understand what was so special about Lin Yi, but as Peng Zhan's trusted follower, he would support Peng Zhan's decisions unconditionally. Meng Yao pouted. She knew that Faubert was only her father's spokesperson, and he wouldn't do anything against her father's decisions. Her father was on the plane now, and he wouldn't be able to pick up the phone. Meng Yao could only hold it in for now. She'd bear with this bastard for a few more days until her father came back. She'd just have to use her coquettish methods to chase Lin Yi away. Meng Yao's heart relaxed a little at the thought. Lin Yi had wanted to experience school life for a long time, but there wasn't a school in the village he lived in, and there weren't many cultured people. Other than old Lin, there was only Buttface in the village, but Lin Yi taught him how to read. Thinking of Buttface, Lin Yi missed him. He wondered how he was doing now. The car stopped in front of the first middle school, and Faubert parked the car. Lin Yi was about to get off the car, but Meng Yao stopped him. "Wait, huh?" Lin Yi was surprised, and he looked at Meng Yao confusedly. It was rare for Meng Yao to take the initiative to talk to him. "Don't get off first. Wait until Shu and I enter the school before you get off. Otherwise, people will misunderstand," Meng Yao said in a domineering manner. "Okay." Lin Yi didn't think there was anything wrong with Meng Yao's request. She was the miss, and he'd do whatever she said. Hee, the miss's temper is like this. She's very willful. Please don't mind her, Mr. Lin. Faubert was helpless with the current situation. He could see that Meng Yao was hostile to Lin Yi. Chapter 20. Chapter 20. The director's braid. This was the question Lin Yi had been thinking about since yesterday. Rather than a study partner like him, Pengzhan might as well have hired a high-level tutor for Meng Yao. Besides, with Meng Yao's status, grades weren't that important anymore. She'd get into a university no matter what, and even if she didn't make it, she'd still be able to get into one of the top universities with Pengzhan's connections. You saw it too? Faubert wasn't expecting Lin Yi to think of these things so quickly. So that's how it is? Lin Yi asked. I don't really understand what Mr. Chu means, actually. Faubert sighed. I'm the closest person to Mr. Chu, but some of his deeper meanings aren't something I can understand. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at Faubert's pointless explanation. But Mr. Chu told me to tell you to take good care of the miss and not think too much about it. Faubert repeated Pengzhan's words to Lin Yi. Give her as much love as you can. She's been lacking love since she was young. Lin Yi was speechless. What the hell was this family doing? Lacking love? He could give her love? What kind of joke was this? Lin Yi hadn't seen Meng Yao yesterday, and he didn't like the idea of Pengzhan looking for a son-in-law at all. But after seeing the young and pretty Meng Yao, he realized that it wasn't that bad after all. But would Meng Yao even fall for him? She'd hate him more than enough, wouldn't she? Still, Lin Yi didn't say much to Faubert. He only nodded and got out of the car. Did you find out who that laborer was? Pin Liang asked with a frown as he rubbed his swollen butt. The man was the reason he hadn't been able to lie down and sleep the whole night. Nope, Nai Peo and I went to a couple of construction sites last night, but we didn't see this guy. Xiao Fu shook his head. Liang bro, maybe he hasn't started working yet? No matter what, we must find this person. Motherfucker, how dare he kick me? I won't let him go. Zhong Pingliang said fiercely. Yes, brother Liang. Gao Xiaofu hurriedly promised. Lin Yi carried his school bag and entered the school. This feeling was so good that it made Lin Yi feel infinitely good. This was campus life, the legendary birthplace of first love. Lin Yi's bag was one of those black bags the school gave him. It was very rustic, and most of the students like Meng Yao and Yushu had switched to their own beautiful bags. Only the poorer students would dress like Lin Yi. He was wearing his school uniform and carrying the school's free school bag. How sharp was Lin Yi's eyes! He saw Zhong Pingliang and the others as soon as he entered the school gates. Wasn't this the guy who'd been bothering Meng Yao yesterday? But since he didn't bother Lin Yi didn't bother with him. He walked right past them. Liang bro, why did that guy look so familiar? Nai Peo said as he looked at Lin Yi's back. I'm talking business here, why do you care if he looks familiar or not? Zhong Pingliang frowned impatiently. Liang bro, I think he looks familiar too. It's like. Xiao Fu rubbed the back of his head, as if he was thinking hard. Like what? Can't you just say it already? Zhong Pingliang cursed. It's that guy who kicked you yesterday. Nai Peo yelled. That's right, Liang bro, it's that guy. I remember now. Really? Zhong Pingliang's eyes lit up upon hearing that it was the guy who kicked him yesterday. What are you waiting for? After him. After him. Xiaofu and Nai Peo chased after Lin Yi. Lin Yi took his file to the school's dean's office. Pengzhan had arranged everything beforehand, and he only needed to report himself. Lin Yi knocked on the door, but no one came to open it for him. He looked at his watch, it was 7:15, and classes started at 8. Perhaps he was a little early. With that in mind, Lin Yi leaned against the door, waiting for the dean to arrive. Ah. A soft moaning sound entered Lin Yi's ears. Lin Yi's hearing had become extremely sensitive ever since he started practicing the art of dragon mastery. He couldn't say that he had clairvoyance, but he could at least hear a lot of sounds that others couldn't. Lin Yi frowned as the sound came from the dean's office. Wasn't there no one here? But Lin Yi seemed to have understood something, and smiled faintly. At 8 sharp, the door to the dean's office opened, and a charming woman in her 30s carefully poked her head out of the office. She jumped when she saw Lin Yi. What? What are you doing here? Lin Yi found it funny. She was having an affair, so why did she have to make it so obvious? It would be strange if people didn't suspect it. I'm looking for the dean, Lin Yi said faintly, not bothering to expose her. Oh, the dean is inside. The woman tried to calm herself down and said to Lin Yi, you can go in. Lin Yi nodded and walked into the office. A balding middle-aged man was sitting at the desk, looking like an old scholar. Lin found it funny. What? What do you want? Wang Jifeng didn't expect that a student would come in to look for him as soon as his lover went out. I'm Lin Yi, here to report. Lin Yi took out his file and handed it to Wang Jifeng. Oh, Lin Yi, I know. Wang Jifeng nodded. This student was personally arranged by the board of directors. How could he not remember? Wang Jifeng took Lin Yi's file and began to handle the formalities for Lin Yi. Soon, after stamping, Wang Jifeng stood up and said, I'll take you to class. Then I'll have to trouble you, Director Wang. Lin Yi said politely. Lin Yi also knew that the dean had a lot of power in the school. If he wanted to live a comfortable life in the future, he couldn't offend this person. Hee, it's my duty. Wang Jifeng didn't dare to be arrogant. After all, this student was arranged by the board of directors. Walking side by side with Lin Yi out of the dean's office, Wang Jifeng asked tentatively, Did you just come? I've been here for a while. Lin Yi felt that there was no need to lie about these things. There were surveillance videos in the school corridors. If Wang Jifeng wanted to see it, he could go and see it directly. Then you. Wang Jifeng wanted to say something but stopped. He didn't know what to say. It was all his fault for being impulsive. He had to do that thing in the morning. Now he was caught by others. Chapter 21. A show of strength. Jifeng's eyes widened at Lin Yi's words. The kid must know something. Jifeng would have been relieved if Lin Yi had acted like he didn't know what was going on, but Lin Yi had said something like this. Jifeng could tell what was going on no matter how stupid he was. Fortunately, Lin Yi's words meant that he didn't want to stick his nose in his business. Jifeng relaxed a little. If the principal or the board of directors were to find out about this, he'd be done for as a dean. Ha ha. Jifeng laughed dryly. Lin Yi, if you run into any trouble in school, feel free to look for me. Remember my phone number later. Thank you, Mr. Wang. Lin Yi quickly put on a fearful expression as he thanked Jifeng. Lin Yi knew that his identity was a little special. He was here for Meng Yao, and it was only natural that he'd do something out of line. He couldn't go to Pengzhan and Faubert for help every time something happened, so he might as well use this opportunity to build a good relationship with Jifeng. It seemed like he'd achieved his goal. As long as he didn't go overboard, Jifeng would be able to take care of it for him. Lin Yi followed Jifeng to Class 5's classroom. Jifeng pushed the door open and waved at the homeroom teacher. This is the new transfer student, Lin Yi. Please arrange a seat for him. Pinliang's eyes widened when he saw Lin Yi. That's right, wasn't this the kid who kicked him yesterday? He, Gao Xiaofu, and Naipeo had been chasing after him for half a day, but they'd let him slip away. Who would have thought that he'd come knocking on his door again? I'm Lin Yi. My name is Lin Yi, E as in elegant. After a brief self-introduction, the homeroom teacher arranged for him to sit at a single table at the back of the class. The homeroom teacher understood that Lin Yi had some sort of background, but it wasn't the right time to arrange seats at the start of the school year. The homeroom teacher couldn't do anything about it now, so he had to force Lin Yi to sit at the back for now. Lin Yi, however, wasn't too particular about his seat. He nodded happily and walked to the last row of the class. Meng Yao's head was lowered as Lin Yi introduced himself, and Yushu, on the other hand, stared at Lin Yi like a curious baby. It gave Lin Yi the creeps. This Miss Chen was even harder to deal with than Miss Chu. Pinliang shot a glance at Naipeo, since Lin Yi had to walk past him to get to his seat. Naipeo made an okay gesture at Pinliang, indicating that there was no problem. Lin Yi had noticed it the moment he entered the class. Pinliang was a student of 12th grade class 5 as well, and so he paid extra attention to him. All of his little movements after that naturally entered Lin Yi's eyes. When Lin Yi walked past Naipeo, the latter raised his right leg, intending to send Lin Yi tumbling. Lin Yi smiled in disdain as he raised his leg to kick, but if he did, Naipeo's bones would probably be fractured. It was Lin Yi's first day at school, and he didn't want to cause too much trouble. He stepped on Naipeo's foot, causing him to yelp in pain. Ah! What's this? Lin Yi looked at Naipeo, not knowing what was going on. Sorry, I stepped on your foot. Zhang Naipeo, do you have a problem? The homeroom teacher, Miss Lu, knew what Naipeo was like, but the kid had some background, and he hung out with Pinliang all the time. Miss Lu couldn't say much. It's nothing. Naipeo's face was red from the pain as he shook his head, suppressing the numbness in his foot. Naturally, he wouldn't tell the teacher what Lin Yi did. That'd be too embarrassing. Pin Liang was quite far away, so he didn't know what happened between Lin Yi and Nai Peo. But when he saw that Lin Yi was fine and Nai Peo was the one making a fuss, he looked at Nai Peo with a reproachful gaze. Nai Peo couldn't say it out loud, so he could only stare at Lin Yi, thinking that he'd get back at him after class. He didn't know if Lin Yi was doing it on purpose or not, since Lin Yi didn't even look at his feet when he walked. His apologetic attitude made it seem like he really didn't know what was going on, and that made Nai Peo very depressed. Lin Yi's seat wasn't too far from Meng Yao and Yushu, and he could see them as soon as he raised his head. It wasn't a bad choice, since he could keep an eye on the two at all times. After all, his main responsibility was to take care of Meng Yao, and he was paid to do so. It was Lin Yi's first day at school. He'd never been to a classroom before, and he'd only seen the classroom, the school, and the students in the classroom from the internet. Lin Yi opened his bag and took out his physics textbook. The first class was physics, and Lin Yi had confirmed it with the timetable. Today is Lin Yi's first day at school. I hope that everyone can take care of the new classmate. Also, I don't want to see anyone bully the new students. He's already a 12th grader, and I don't want anyone to be unable to graduate because of this. Miss Liu still had to warn Pin Liang and the others. Pin Liang, in particular, was known as one of the big four in school, and bullying other students was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Of course, Pin Liang didn't seem to care about the warning. Lin Yi was flipping through his book when a small ball of paper fell on his desk. Lin Yi froze. This Zhang Nai Peo couldn't be that bad, could he? Throwing a paper ball at him after getting stepped on? How was he at kindergarten level? Lin Yi raised his head to find Yushu looking at him with a smile on her face. Lin Yi felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't the girl's doing, was it? Yushu pointed at the paper ball on Lin Yi's desk before turning away. Lin Yi paused as he looked at the paper ball on his desk, and then at Yushu's back. Was this the legendary passing notes? Man, it'd be great if it was a pretty and gentle girl passing notes to him. Yushu was just one of the few things that matter. She was pretty, but gentle was nowhere to be found. Chapter 22. Follow us if you've got balls. The guy you kicked in the ass yesterday is in our class too. They're plotting something against you. The note read. Lin Yi smiled after reading the note. He didn't think that Yushu was reminding him out of the goodness of her hearts. The girl was the type that wanted to see the world in chaos. She was probably trying to get Lin Yi to teach Pin Liang and the others a lesson. Pin Liang was probably annoying her to no end. The physics teacher was an old man in his 50s, but his knowledge was solid. Lin Yi had studied the content on his own before, but he was still able to listen to it with great interest. Pin Liang called Xiaofu and Nai Peo out after class, but didn't come looking for trouble with Lin Yi. Lin Yi, on the other hand, couldn't be bothered with them. Nai Peo, what's wrong with you? Pin Liang glared at Nai Peo, pissed. Didn't I tell you to show him who's boss? What the hell are you doing? Don't talk about it, Liang bro. I was just about to put my foot out, trying to trip him up when he stepped on my foot. Motherfucker, it hurts. Nai Peo said bitterly. It still hurts. You were discovered by him? Pin Liang frowned. He'd just gotten kicked by Lin Yi yesterday, and he knew how strong Lin Yi was. Nai Peo must have been in a lot of pain. I don't think so. He didn't even lower his head. Nai Peo was suspicious as well. Fuck, I didn't think we'd fall into a country bumpkin's hands one after another. We'll block him in the washroom later. I'll show him the difference between piss and beer. Pin Liang said hatefully. He'd been named one of the big four ever since he entered the school, and he'd never been taken advantage of like this before. And we'll show him the difference between shit and cake. Xiaofu added. The three were discussing when a man in black walked over with a cigarette in his mouth. I say, Liang, what are you guys doing? Having a meeting or something? Isn't this Brother Ming? Pin Liang raised his head and saw one of the big four, Zhou Ruoming. The guy had done more bad things than Pin Liang had ever done. He'd heard that he'd dragged a girl from his class into the woods and raped her in middle school. Zhou Ruoming nodded, enjoying the Ming bro. His family background wasn't as good as Pin Liang's, but he was more ruthless and had a big brother in the underworld. That was why he was popular in school. Is there anything I can help you with? Zhou Ruoming asked. It's nothing. He's just a country bumpkin. I'll show him who's boss in this school. Pin Liang naturally didn't want to lose face in front of Zhou Ruoming. Fuck. He's just a country bumpkin, yet you guys are so serious about holding a meeting. Zhou Ruoming lost interest immediately. He thought it was something fun, so he shook his head and left. He'd had his eye on a girl from class 9, 12th grade. He'd been trying to figure out how to get his hands on her, but that cold beauty was very prideful and aloof. Ruoming was wondering if he should force himself on her. The reason why he said it was his sister was because Ruoming was studying in the college entrance exam tutorial class, the 4th year of high school. It was a class for students who couldn't get into college, and Ruoming could spend money to get into college any time he wanted. Staying in high school was actually his own idea. He enjoyed this kind of life, and he understood that it wouldn't be the case once he went to a university in another city. University students and high school students had different worldviews. He'd be out of his family's sphere of influence, and he'd die a horrible death if he continued to act so arrogantly. So Zhou Ruoming told his father that he'd study for another year and take the college entrance exam next year. Naturally, Mr. Zhou agreed when he saw that his son was willing to study. He didn't know about Lin Yi's little tricks. Lin Yi passed the 3 periods peacefully, with Meng Yao acting as if she didn't know him at all. She didn't even look at him once, and Yushu, on the other hand, kept sneaking sneaky glances at him. Lin Yi, naturally, didn't think that Yushu had fallen for him. The girl probably wanted to see him fight with Pinliang. The 3rd period was the daily exercise break, and Lin Yi was about to go to the field with his classmates when he saw Pinliang, Nai Peo, and Xiaofu walking towards him. He was in the last row, and there was no way he'd pass by here when he left the classroom. Without a doubt, these 3 were here for him. Lin Yi also knew that it was only a matter of time before they came looking for him. Yeah. Yao Yao, look. That idiot Pinliang's going to look for Shield Bro. Yushu had been paying attention to Pinliang and Lin Yi's movements for the past few periods. Seeing that Pinliang was finally going to look for trouble with Lin Yi, she got excited. She'd wanted to see Pinliang make a fool out of himself for a long time, but hadn't done anything because of the elders. Now that someone had done it for her, naturally, she was excited. Oh, Pinliang's going to teach that bastard a lesson then. Meng Yao was still pissed off. No way, Yao Yao, why are you siding with Pinliang? Yushu blinked. Don't tell me you actually like him? Who the hell likes him? But I hate Lin Yi even more. Meng Yao humphed. Let's go, ignore him. Don't, I want to see who's going to win. Yushu pulled Meng Yao, not letting her go. Fine, I want to see how that bastard is going to get beaten up. It'll help me vent my anger. Meng Yao said, but she didn't know why, but she didn't want Lin Yi to lose. In comparison, she still hated Pinliang more. Lin Yi was despicable, but he wasn't that despicable. So, the 2 curious babies held hands and hid at the door of the classroom, observing the movements inside the classroom. Kid, do you know why we're looking for you? Pinliang stood in front of Lin Yi, looking cocky as he pointed at Lin Yi. I know because I kicked your ass yesterday, and you fell flat on your face. Lin Yi said calmly, as if it wasn't a big deal. Fuck, why are you so cocky if you know? You're so cocky. Nai Peo glared as he reached for Lin Yi's collar. Your foot doesn't hurt anymore, does it? Lin Yi easily pushed Nai Peo's hand to the side, mocking him. Nai Peo's face reddened. This was a humiliation he'd never felt before. So Lin Yi did it on purpose. Chapter 23. Toilet rain. Sure, I need to go to the washroom anyway. Pinliang's words were exactly what Lin Yi was thinking. He'd caught the dean's weakness this morning, but Lin Yi wasn't sure if the dean would be able to help him if anything went wrong. Finding a place with no one around would be ideal. Pinliang didn't know what to do now that Lin Yi agreed so readily. He looked at Nai Peo and Xiaofu, not knowing what to do. They'd always get scared when they wanted to teach someone a lesson, begging for mercy when they heard that they needed to go to the washroom. Lin Yi was the only one who said that he needed to go to the washroom. Let's go then. Pinliang wasn't in a good mood. Talking to Lin Yi didn't give him any pleasure at all. Yao Yao, look at Shield Bro. He's so cool. Yushu waved her little fists excitedly. We'll have a good show later. I think he's got a puncture to his brain. He's still acting like he's facing 3 people. Meng Yao curled her lips. Lin Yi and Pinliang walked out of the classroom to see Meng Yao and Yushu standing at the doorway. Lin Yi didn't think much of it. He knew that Yushu was here to watch the show, but Pinliang put on a fawning smile. Yao Yao, why are you here? Why can't I be here? I can be wherever I want. It's none of your business. Meng Yao rolled her eyes. What are you guys doing? Me? This country bumpkin doesn't know anything. I'm teaching him a lesson. Pin Liang didn't know that Lin Yi and Meng Yao knew each other. He thought that they didn't have a relationship. As far as Pin Liang was concerned, girls liked strong men. The stronger he was, the safer they'd feel. As a result, he'd always acted arrogant in front of Meng Yao, not knowing that it only made Meng Yao hate him more. Oh, you should really teach him a lesson then. Meng Yao glared at Lin Yi faintly as she spoke. Who told you to take advantage of me yesterday? Today's the day you get what you deserve, huh? All right. Pin Liang was overjoyed when he heard that Meng Yao agreed with him. So Meng Yao liked watching him bully others. It seemed like Meng Yao liked those kinds of students as well. If he'd known that she liked them, wouldn't he have gotten her way a long time ago? You can do it, Lin Yi, you can do it, Lin Yi, you can do it. Yu Shu called out at an inopportune moment. Pin Liang was speechless. Weren't these two sisters in the same group? So Yu Shu liked country bumpkins like Lin Yi? Pin Liang was pissed, but he pretended like he didn't hear anything. After all, he couldn't afford to piss off this girl. One punch from her brother could send him flying into space. Shu, why are you cheering for him? Meng Yao frowned. You cheer for Zhong Pingliang, and I'll cheer for Lin Yi. That's fair. Yu Shu said confidently. Lin Yi didn't stay for long. He turned around and walked into the men's washroom. Hey, can you guys stay here? Don't go to the washroom. Yu Shu didn't want them to go to the washroom. She wouldn't be able to watch the show. Pin Liang pointed at the washroom, meaning that Lin Yi was already in there. There was nothing he could do. He wanted to do it in the school hallway. It might attract the dean's attention, but he'd do it if he could win the girl's heart. In fact, students like Pin Liang were still afraid of the homeroom teacher and dean on the surface. After all, he was still a student. He wasn't as fearless as the hooligans in the real world. If the dean really did tell his father about his bad behavior, he wouldn't have a good time at home. But most of the time, the homeroom teacher and dean would turn a blind eye to young masters like him. They knew that they couldn't study, so they let them be as long as they didn't cause any trouble. Why don't you guys come in and watch? Pin Liang said after some hesitation. That's the men's washroom. Yu Shu pointed at the big men word. Liang, you're not asking us to make mistakes, are you? Pin Liang didn't like being called Liang, but he didn't do anything about it. He smiled. It's fine. Everyone's in the exercise break. No one's going to the washroom at this time. We'll go in first. Pin Liang was afraid that Lin Yi would run into the washroom and lock himself in, so he quickly ran into the washroom with Nai Peo and Xiaofu. Yao Yao, should we go in? Yu Shu didn't want to miss out on this exciting scene. She wanted to see Lin Yi beat up Pin Liang. I don't think that's a good idea. Meng Yao hesitated. After all, she'd never been to the men's washroom before. What's wrong with that? Didn't Pin Liang say that no one's going to the washroom at this time? Yu Shu grabbed Meng Yao's hand and ran towards the washroom. Man! Meng Yao sighed, feeling that something wasn't right. She had a bad feeling about this. Lin Yi really did want to go to the washroom. He drank a big bowl of noodle soup in the morning, and spent most of his time familiarizing himself with the classroom. He didn't have time to go to the washroom. This washroom was quite high class, with its own urinal. It wasn't like the latrines in the village. In fact, back in the village where Lin Yi lived, he could just go to the washroom anywhere. Lin Yi was peeing when he heard footsteps behind him. Lin Yi saw Pin Liang, Nai Peo, and Xiaofu's silhouettes through the glass on the side. Fuck, this guy's really peeing here? Xiaofu's eyes were wide open. He couldn't help but sigh at Lin Yi's stupidity. Why did it seem like he wasn't afraid of anything? Leave it to me. Pin Liang cackled as he ran towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi had kicked him in the butt yesterday, and he was going to pay him back today. People who were peeing were most afraid of being disturbed by the outside world. If they were interrupted right now, they'd be scared out of their wits, and in the worst case they'd get sick. One had to admit that Pin Liang was quite a sinister person. He'd chosen this moment to kick Lin Yi. Not only would he be able to send Lin Yi flying into the urinal, but he'd also be able to scare Lin Yi out of his wits. Pin Liang was so happy that his mouth was crooked. He tiptoed towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi had seen Pinliang's actions from the reflection of the glass window. He found it funny. When Pinliang was behind him, Lin Yi turned around abruptly, clenched his teeth, and sprayed a stream of urine at Pinliang. Ah! Pinliang panicked. His plan was ruined by Lin Yi in an instant. He quickly dodged to the back. But how could Pinliang compare to the speed at which he peed like a water gun? At the same time, Pinliang felt like it was raining on his face, wet from the spray. The worst part was that he'd opened his mouth wide when he screamed, and now he'd drunk a mouthful of Lin Yi's urine. Pinliang struggled to dodge, but his foot stepped on Lin Yi's urine. He slipped and fell flat on his back. Chapter 24. Impure, the two tiptoed their way to the men's washroom, hoping to see the fight between Lin Yi and Pinliang. They didn't expect to see Lin Yi shooting at Pinliang with a water gun the moment they peeked their heads out. Meng Yao was going crazy. What the hell was going on? Didn't Pinliang say that no one was going to the washroom at this hour? What was Lin Yi doing then? Meng Yao covered her eyes with her hands. Pervert! She cursed before running away. Yushu, on the other hand, screamed as well, but didn't cover her eyes. She took a few more glances before running off with Meng Yao, mumbling to herself as she ran. Men are just like what the books say. They can be big or small, but they can also be big or small. They looked so big this morning, but now they're so much smaller. So weird. Shu, what are you talking about? Meng Yao heard Yushu talking to herself and asked, not understanding what she was saying. Nothing. Yushu blushed. She'd be so embarrassed if Meng Yao had heard what she said. I can't take it anymore, I'm going to break down. Meng Yao ran back to the classroom, panting heavily. How could he do that? How could he show such a disgusting thing in front of me? I'm done for, I'm impure now. Yushu curled her lips. Wouldn't she be a slut if she looked at him once? Wouldn't she be considered a slut if she looked at him twice? She wouldn't die if she looked, but Lin Yi was the unlucky one. Yushu tried to calm Meng Yao down. Yao, that's the men's washroom, all right? We were the ones who peeked. Ah! Meng Yao thought about it. She was right. Peeing in the men's washroom wasn't a problem. But it wasn't right for her to peek. Meng Yao frowned as she remembered something. Right, you're the one who dragged me there. I didn't Pinliang say that no one was going to the washroom at this hour? Yushu, naturally, pushed the blame onto Pinliang. Geez. Meng Yao sighed. She had no choice but to accept her bad luck. She'd never seen anything like that in her life, but there was nothing she could do about it. She'd drunk the drink Lin Yi had drunk from yesterday, and she couldn't blame anyone else. But no matter what, he was determined to kick Lin Yi out of the door. Her life had been pretty peaceful, but ever since this guy showed up, everything had changed. It had only been 2 days, but she was already no longer pure. Not only had she lost her first kiss, but she had also seen something that shouldn't be seen. If he was allowed to stay at home for 2 months, who knew what would happen? Meng Yao had made up her mind. She'd talked to her father personally when he came back from his business trip. Even if she had to compensate this bastard for the termination fee, she couldn't let him stay by her side. It was too dangerous. Pinliang's scream didn't affect Lin Yi at all, but Meng Yao and Yushu's screams, on the other hand, gave Lin Yi a huge fright. What the hell were these 2 girls doing in the men's washroom? Lin Yi frowned at the thought. They were screaming when he went to the washroom? They didn't look like a peeping Tom at all. Peeping was important. If you scared the person you were peeping on, then it wouldn't be called peeping anymore. Lin Yi pulled up his pants and walked to the door. Don't go! Nai Peo and Xiaofu blocked Lin Yi's way. Your boss is already like that. I'd advise you guys to get him a change of clothes. He'll lose all his face when the students come back from their exercise break. Lin Yi said with a wry smile as he looked at the moaning Pinliang in the river of urine. Pinliang's butt was already swollen, and now that he'd fallen flat on his back, the force landed on his butt. It was so painful that he couldn't even stand up. Ai! Xiaofu was in a difficult position. Lin Yi's words made sense, after all. Reputation was more important than anything else in the school, and if someone were to see Pinliang come out of the toilet covered in piss, he'd become a laughingstock for the rest of his life. Humph! This isn't over yet. Nai Peo thought that now wasn't the time to mess with Lin Yi. He'd have plenty of chances to deal with him in the future. Just you wait. Whatever. Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly as he walked out of the washroom. What the hell are you two doing? Hurry up and help me up. Pin Liang didn't think much of it at first, but Lin Yi's words scared him. He couldn't afford to lose face like this. Liang bro, you're... Nai Peo looked at the wet Pin Liang, feeling disgusted. It wasn't water, it was urine. Asking him to help Pin Liang up was the same as getting a hand full of urine. Xiaofu had the same thought as well. He reached out his hand a few times, only to stop there. What, you think it's dirty? Pin Liang frowned as he reached out his hand, a little pissed off. He grabbed both Nai Peo and Xiaofu, and the two of them were covered in urine. They had no choice but to help Pin Liang up with a bitter smile on their faces. But going back to class wasn't an option now, so they'd have to find a place to take a shower and get a change of clothes. The three of them left the school through the back door. Pin Liang was pissed off at the feeling of going for wool and coming home shorn. He swore to himself that he'd teach this country bumpkin a lesson he'd never forget. Not for anything else, but for exposing his dick in front of Meng Yao. That was something he couldn't allow. It was like his woman being humiliated by another man. Meng Yao wasn't his woman yet, but Pin Liang believed that day wouldn't be too far away. With his family background and his strength, Meng Yao would definitely fall for him. Pin Liang felt a little better at the thought. The exercise break wasn't over yet when Lin Yi returned to class. Back in the mountains, Lin Yi heard of the term exercise break for the first time. His first reaction was that it couldn't be, right? As expected of a big city. Did all the students in the school do that kind of thing in between classes? Moreover, the school had also set up exercise break time justifiably. But Lin Yi realized later that he'd misunderstood. The so-called exercise break was just gymnastics in the field between classes. It was obvious that Lin Yi didn't have the simplicity of the people from the mountains. Instead, he was more erotic. Chapter 25. Worst friend. Yao Yao, look, I won. Yushu said to Meng Yao as soon as she saw Lin Yi. What do you mean you won? Meng Yao asked, confused. I bet Lin Yi would win. Yushu said, blushing as she looked at Lin Yi. She was bolder than Meng Yao, but she couldn't help but blush at the thought of what she'd just seen. Meng Yao didn't say anything, evidently still in shock. I didn't win, they just went to change their clothes. Lin Yi said before returning to his seat. He felt a little embarrassed today, letting the two girls see his dick. That was his treasure, something only his future wife could see, and yet they'd let them see it in advance. Pin Liang didn't show up for the rest of the morning, and Xiaofu and Nai Peo were nowhere to be seen as well. It seemed that the three of them had to go shower and buy some clothes. During lunch break, a guy with glasses sitting in front of Lin Yi turned around. Hey bro, where are we having lunch? I don't know, does the school have a cafeteria? Lin Yi was just worrying about where to eat lunch when someone came to talk to him out of kindness. Lin Yi quickly asked. Yeah, I'll take you there. The guy with glasses offered his hand in a friendly manner. Let's get to know each other. I'm Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi, nice to meet you. Lin Yi said as he shook Kong Xiaobo's hand. Meng Yao and Yushu were nowhere to be seen after class, but Lin Yi didn't have to worry about them. No one could hurt them in school. The two walked out of the classroom shoulder to shoulder. Kong Xiaobo was quite the talker. Bro, which school were you from? I'm from the mountains. Lin Yi didn't hide his past at all. I don't think I've gone to school officially. It's very poor there, and there aren't any proper schools. Ah, then your results must be very good. Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi in surprise. One should know that there were only two kinds of students who could enter number 1 middle school. One was those who entered with high prices, and the other were those who entered with high scores. Needless to say, as long as they were willing to spend money, the school would definitely accept them. There were also a few types of students who entered with high scores. The most outstanding one was the one who was exempted from tuition and fees and had a scholarship of 1,000 yuan every month. Since Lin Yi said that his hometown was very poor and didn't even have a proper school, then it must be a very poor and backward place. Looking at Lin Yi's attire and tone, it didn't seem like he had a powerful background. It was even more impossible for him to have spent money to get in. The only possibility left was that he got in based on his results. Justices, Lin Yi said with a wry smile. He couldn't explain too much about his identity, so he just let Kong Xiaobo think whatever he wanted. Ha, brother, you are too humble. Kong Xiaobo also got in to know. one middle school, and in his heart, he looked down on students like Pin Liang who spent money to pass time. Seeing that Lin Yi also got in based on his results, he had a good impression of him. The two walked to the cafeteria together. Along the way, there were young and beautiful girls everywhere, dazzling Lin Yi's eyes. "Brother, I didn't know you like this." Kong Xiaobo saw Lin Yi's gaze sweeping around, and he smiled slyly. He whispered, "But let me tell you, there are only a few girls in our school that can be considered top quality." "What top quality?" Lin Yi asked, stunned. Although he glanced at the girls in the school, he was mostly looking at the school's facilities and environment. "Hey, brother, don't pretend to be pure." Kong Xiaobo patted Lin Yi's shoulder and said, "At our age, it's normal to have thoughts about pretty girls. But, you can look and fantasize about them, but if you really go after them, I'm afraid you will only get rejected." Lin Yi heard Kong Xiaobo's words and smiled bitterly. So this guy was a wolf. He looked gentle and wore glasses, but it turned out that he was a man who was cold on the outside. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't say anything, Kong Xiaobo thought that Lin Yi wasn't convinced, so he continued, "I say, brother, don't be upset. Actually, good grades aren't everything these days. Of course, this is also one of the reasons. Girls like handsome men, and the most important thing is that they have money in their pockets. Us, don't even think about it." "Haha, this theory of yours is quite interesting." Lin Yi laughed, but in his heart, he didn't think much of it. For girls like Meng Yao and Yushu, money didn't mean anything to them. Otherwise, with Pin Liang's family background, how could he not be able to get them? Of course, but just having a theory is useless. The top quality girls in our school have high standards. Kong Xiaobo shook his head. "What top quality? Who are they?" Lin Yi started to gossip after listening. He had nothing to do anyway, and since this Kong Xiaobo wanted to get close to him, it wouldn't be bad to have another friend in school. I say, brother, are you serious? Didn't you see? In our class, there are two of them." Kong Xiaobo said proudly. Although the beauties had nothing to do with him, they were still in the same class. It was enough to make people jealous. Not for anything else, just for the eye candy. "You're not talking about Meng Yao and Yushu, are you?" Lin Yi only knew the names of these two girls. He'd seen Meng Yao's profile back then, and knew that she was the school beauty. Her best friend Yushu, on the other hand, was one in a million. "Fuck, no way bro, you've only been here for one morning, and you already know their names?" Kong Xiaobo's mouth formed an O shape, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Looking at Kong Xiaobo's expression, Lin Yi knew that he must have misunderstood, but Lin Yi couldn't explain his relationship with Meng Yao. He had no choice but to accept the title of pervert. "You don't have to look like that. Actually, I'm sure that 80% of the boys in our class have their dream girls." Kong Xiaobo smiled and pushed up his faded gold-rimmed glasses. "But the only one who dares to go after them is Zhong Pinliang. Zhong Pinliang's family is very rich, right?" Lin Yi knew that the grudge between him and Zhong Pinliang was already set in stone. As long as he was protecting Meng Yao, the grudge would never be resolved, unless Zhong Pinliang gave up on Meng Yao. So Lin Yi planned to learn more about Zhong Pinliang from Kong Xiaobo. Chapter 26. Chapter 26. Commoner Lin Yi nodded. So he was an entertainment tycoon, someone who relied on nightclubs and karaoke to make a name for himself. He couldn't say all of them, but a lot of them had a shady background. But that was understandable. After all, there were all sorts of people who came looking for trouble. It was impossible to run a business without a strong background. Looks like his family's pretty big in the city. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of Pin Liang at all. As far as he was concerned, mafia bosses and corporate CEOs weren't as scary as his old man. Old Lin would beat him to death if he pissed him off, and he wouldn't be able to defend himself at all. His family's nothing. Kong Xiaobo curled his lips in disdain. It was obvious that he didn't like Pin Liang at all. If we're talking about money, Meng Yao's family's the real deal. Pin Liang's family only has a couple of entertainment businesses in the city, but House Chu's is the real deal. They have a lot of branches in the country. Lin Yi had a rough understanding of Pengzhan's power. If Pengzhan Industries was an aircraft carrier, then House Zhong's businesses were small boats. It was only natural that Meng Yao didn't care about a nouveau riche like Pin Liang. "Looks like you know a lot." Lin Yi smiled. Kong Xiaobo's face reddened as he said awkwardly. How many boys in our school don't know about Meng Yao's background? Yushu, on the other hand, is a little more mysterious. How so? Lin Yi was curious. Lin Yi had never met Yushu's family before, but he could tell that Yushu was picked up by Meng Yao's family car every day, and even ate at Meng Yao's house after school. It made Lin Yi feel like Yushu was borrowing Meng Yao's fame, but Kong Xiaobo's words made it seem like that wasn't the case. I heard that Yushu's grandfather was an elder during the liberation period, and her brother was a major general in the army. Back in the first year of high school, there was a boy who used his family background to chase after Yushu, so he tried some dirty tricks. Yushu's brother found out about it and beat the boy up, sending him to the hospital for half a year. The boy's family didn't even dare say a word, and even went to the Chen house to apologize, Kong Xiaobo said mysteriously. From this, you can see how powerful Yushu's background is. Yushu, on the other hand, doesn't take the initiative to cause trouble. There are a lot of people who like her, but they don't dare confess. Lin Yi thought to himself, this is called not causing trouble? She doesn't cause trouble, but she always provokes me. Not only did she have a handle on him, but she even saw that part of him. What the hell was going on? Just thinking about it gave him a headache. Lin Yi wasn't afraid that Yushu's brother would cause trouble for him. He knew Yushu's personality well, and the girl seemed to be a lot more open-minded than Meng Yao. She wouldn't harp on things like this, but Meng Yao. She probably hated him even more now, didn't she? Sometimes, Lin Yi would rather be Yushu's study companion than Meng Yao. The miss was really hard to please. Lin Yi, you're not falling for them, are you? Kong Xiaobo patted Lin Yi's shoulder when he saw that Lin Yi wasn't saying anything. Lin Yi smiled bitterly, shaking his head. How could I? I've never thought about that. Wasn't this asking him to steal from the miss? It made Lin Yi feel a sense of guilt, as if he was a servant in ancient times trying to steal from the miss. Haha, but bro, if you really want to chase after them, there's another candidate. Kong Xiaobo whispered mysteriously. Who? Lin Yi asked casually, not because he cared, but because he wanted to know more about the school through Kong Xiaobo's mouth. Tang Yun from 12th grade class 9. Kong Xiaobo cleared his throat. Our school's poor school beauty. She's pretty, but just like us, her family isn't that well off. She wears her school uniform every day, and she doesn't dress up, but that doesn't hide her beauty. Tang Yun. Lin Yi was taken aback. It was a pretty name, but he didn't know if she was as pretty as Kong Xiaobo said. Of course, compared to the two princesses, Meng Yao and Yushu, Tang Yun doesn't stand out that much. Kong Xiaobo's voice was a little rushed and excited when he mentioned Tang Yun. But compared to them, she's closer to us. In a school like No. 1 middle school, there were children of the rich and the poor. Unknowingly, they were divided into two factions. Some rich young masters gathered together and chased after beauties all day long, playing games with life. After graduation, they could use their money and family connections to get into their ideal university, or even study abroad. Poor kids, on the other hand, had to work hard every day to get into their ideal university. Most of the poor students were dismissive of the idle rich second generation, and these rich second generation would also be dismissive of the nerds who only knew how to study all day long. But this wasn't absolute. There were rich kids who studied hard, and there were poor kids who fought in the underworld. But birds of a feather flocked together. Pinliang's lackeys were all from rich families and government officials, just like him. As a result, to Kong Xiaobo, chasing after Meng Yao and Yushu was just an unattainable dream. Tang Yun, the commoner school beauty, was the one they could reach out to. Lin Yi sighed as he looked at Kong Xiaobo's hopeful smile. The school wasn't as simple as he'd imagined it to be. It was full of interests and conflicts. You like her? Lin Yi smiled. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I can guarantee that most of the boys in this school have wet dreams of Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo said with certainty. Bro, you'll know when you see her. Chase after the commoner school beauty. It was a tempting suggestion, but Lin Yi shook his head in the end. He was a study boy now. How could he leave the miss behind to find a boyfriend? Even if Pingzhan didn't say anything, old Lin wouldn't let him go just like that. One shouldn't be too much of a jerk. It was better to keep a low profile. Plus, the situation wasn't clear yet. He didn't know what Pengzhan was planning. He couldn't be thinking of using his job to steal the miss, could he? Now that he thought about it, it was quite possible. He wasn't related to the miss at all, So this was the only way he could give her love. What if he went after some commoner school beauty and Peng Zhan found out? What if he was fired? Chapter 27. Third year afternoon. The school cafeteria was huge, with 3 floors. The first floor was the general cafeteria, the kind that looked like a fast food restaurant. There were stalls selling all sorts of dishes around the cafeteria, and in the middle were rows of tables and chairs. The second floor, on the other hand, was a private room, suitable for rich students. Students who didn't come from rich families would come here for birthday parties as well. The food on the second floor was on a completely different level compared to the first floor, after all. The third floor was the staff cafeteria. The food was similar to the students' cafeteria on the first floor, but with a more elegant ambience. Naturally, students weren't allowed to eat there. Lin Yi followed Kong Xiaobo into the cafeteria, and Kong Xiaobo pointed to an office on the right. Get a meal card there. Oh, I'll get one right away. Lin Yi nodded. Peng Zhan and Faubert hadn't given him a meal card or library card back then, but it was obvious that he could get one at any time in school as long as he showed his student ID. What? Are you looking down on me? Kong Xiaobo wasn't pleased that Lin Yi was going to get a card. Today's the first day we've met, and it's my turf. Of course it's my treat. Lin Yi gave up on the idea of getting a card right away after hearing Kong Xiaobo's words. All right, we'll get one after we eat. All right, I'll go with you after we eat. Kong Xiaobo said happily as he led Lin Yi through the small windows of the cafeteria. There were quite a lot of dishes on display, including vegetables and meat, as well as a few staples. There were also buns, dumplings, pies, and the like. Lin Yi ordered some tomatoes and rice, while Kong Xiaobo ordered a plate of shredded pork and steamed buns, spending a total of 11 kuai. It wasn't much, and it wasn't much at all. It was considered average spending. Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo found a place to sit down and put the 2 dishes together so that they could take turns to eat. After sitting down, Lin Yi scanned the entire cafeteria. Yushu and Meng Yao weren't here, evidently having gone to the second floor. What are you looking at? Are you looking at pretty girls? Kong Xiaobo smiled. Yushu and Meng Yao are upstairs. They won't be eating with us, but if we're lucky, we might be able to meet Tang Yun. Really? Lin Yi only cared about Meng Yao's whereabouts. He didn't care whether Tang Yun would appear here or not. But Tang Yun's family doesn't seem to be doing well. Most of the time, they only bring food. Kong Xiaobo sighed. Actually, with Tang Yun's status, just a word from her and there would be countless boys fighting to treat her to a meal. It's not impossible for her to eat in the second floor every day. Huh, ambitious girls won't care about these things, Lin Yi said faintly. You're right. Tang Yun has never cared about these things. It's rare to find a girl like her, Kong Xiaobo agreed. But the more she is like this, the more boys will like her. This kind of girl who doesn't like to be greedy is exactly what we students like. Unfortunately, Tang Yun didn't appear even after lunch. Lin Yi didn't mind, but Kong Xiaobo felt slightly regretful. Many students were like Kong Xiaobo, coming here every day to eat, hoping to see Tang Yun. It had become a kind of expectation. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, were walking down from the second floor arm in arm, attracting a lot of attention from the boys. But to most of the people here, they were princesses high up in the sky, unreachable. Many boys didn't even dare to look at them directly. Lin Yi watched the 2 walk out of the school cafeteria and went to the management office with Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi, you were staring at Yushu and Yushu just now, right? Kong Xiaobo asked. I was just looking. Lin Yi was a little embarrassed. Ah, you'll understand in a few days. They are not our princesses. Tang Yun is. Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi sympathetically. But when he first entered the school, didn't he also have a crush on Yushu and Meng Yao? But as he grew older, he understood the difference between them. Everyone was equal. It was a beautiful fantasy. As long as one was slightly more mature, they would understand that there was never equality between people. Wine and meat went bad in the rich, and there were frozen bones on the road. This wasn't a joke, it was a fact. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, had a beautiful life. Their princess-like life wasn't something a normal boy like him could enter. So although many people in the class knew that Meng Yao didn't like Zhong Pingliang, they also knew that Zhong Pingliang was the only one in the class who had the right to pursue Meng Yao. The card application process was quite smooth. After all, it was to give money to the school. Although the cafeteria manager said that it wasn't making money, no one would believe that. Lin Yi showed his student ID and deposited 200 kuai into the cafeteria, getting his food card with ease. On the way out, Kong Xiaobo complained, "Bro, why did you save so much money?" "I'm eating, what's wrong?" Lin Yi didn't understand. When he was saving money, Kong Xiaobo kept giving him looks. He didn't know what the kid was trying to do. The cafeteria. When you give him money, he'll greet you with a smile. When you stop eating and want your money back, just you wait. We're all 12th graders. Who knows how long we can eat here? You saved so much money at once, and when you graduate, you'll be asking for your money back every day. You don't have the time. Kong Xiaobo said, blaming Lin Yi. Haha, I see. It's fine. It's only 200 kuai. Look at us, we only spend 10 kuai a day. That 200 kuai will be gone in a month or so. Lin Yi smiled carelessly. If you don't want your money back, then don't. Worst comes to worst, we won't eat for a day and just eat here. You're quite open-minded. Kong Xiaobo praised. If it weren't for the fact that the restaurants outside the school are more expensive, I wouldn't eat in this cafeteria. It's good enough that there's food. Lin Yi wasn't picky. Although the food in this cafeteria wasn't as good as the chef Faubert sent yesterday, it was much better than Widow Wang's snack shop at the entrance of the village. When he returned to the classroom, he realized that most of the students didn't go out to play. The 12th grade was precious and tense. This was a watershed in life. If you worked hard, you might get into a top university in the future. If you were careless, you might fail. Chapter 28. Chapter 28. Yushu's brother Mingyao and Yushu didn't go out, either. They were huddled together, watching an MP4 movie called The Happy Goat and Big Big Wolf. It was a very childish movie to Lin Yi, but the two of them were enjoying it, laughing from time to time. Naturally, the boys in the class weren't offended at all. In fact, they found the two's laughter to be music from heaven, adding a hint of color to their boring lives. The girls, on the other hand, didn't feel the same way. Some were jealous, some looked down on them, some even disdainful. Of course, there were also those who didn't think much of it. But no matter what, Mengyao and Yushu's outstanding temperament was still envied by most of them. He went back to his seat, and Yushu, who'd been playing with her MP4, raised her head to glance at him before turning back to her cartoon. Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, started doing his exercises quietly. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was flipping through his 12th grade textbook, bored. Before the first afternoon class, Pinliang came back with a change of clothes. Xiaofu and Naipeo were with him as well. Their hair wasn't too dry yet, evidently they'd just showered. Pinliang shot a hateful glare at Lin Yi as he entered the classroom, but didn't say anything as he returned to his seat. Pinliang had lost all his face today, especially in front of the girl he loved the most. This was the biggest humiliation he'd ever suffered in his life, especially in front of the girl he loved the most. He wouldn't let Lin Yi get away with this. He swore to himself. He didn't do anything to Lin Yi now, not because he was patient, but because there were only 10 minutes left before class started. The first class was the homeroom teacher Lu's class, and he didn't want to cause trouble right now. He planned to cause trouble for Lin Yi during the self-study period. Yushu couldn't help but think of how Lin Yi had poured his pee all over his head when she looked at him. She couldn't help but chuckle at the memory of how Lin Yi had peed on him though, and blushed a little. Pinliang, naturally, heard Yushu's mockery as well. He'd have slapped the guy if it were anyone else, but he didn't dare do that to Yushu. Others might not know, but Pinliang knew Yushu's background very well. He knew that Wu Xiaocan from last year's 12th grade. He'd been chasing after Yushu since the beginning of the first year, and it was only after Yushu rejected him a couple of times that Wu Xiaocan's mind started to wander. One time, Wu Xiaocan sat next to Yushu during a movie organized by the school. He'd wanted to make a move on Yushu, but he'd failed and ended up getting slapped twice in the face by Yushu. After that, Wu Xiaocan had announced to the school that he'd dumped Yushu, and that he'd gotten bored of her. He'd even said nasty things about how Yushu had aborted her child because of him. Of course, most people understood that Wu Xiaocan was just saying that the grapes were sour. They listened to his words for the time being, but did not believe him. But while no one believed Wu Xiaocan's words, he'd pushed Yushu into the limelight for a while. Yushu, of course, had never taken something like that. She'd argued with Wu Xiaocan, even slapped him a couple of times in front of everyone. Wu Shaokan had told her to be careful after school, that he'd find someone to gang rape her. Yushu's brother, Chen Yuming, found out about it later. It was a winter afternoon. Pin Liang couldn't forget that scene no matter how hard he tried. A Land Rover had stopped in front of the school, and a tall, burly guy got out of the car and went straight to Wu Shaokan, who was playing soccer in the field. Wu Shaokan hadn't realized anything at the time, and he'd said to Chen Yuming, "Who the hell do you think you are? Aren't you just a stupid soldier?" Who was he trying to scare? Let me tell you, no matter how good you are at fighting, we're all here. Chen Yuming only said one sentence. Go to the school radio station and apologize to Yushu, and we'll forget about it. Wu Shaokan laughed, laughing wildly. He'd never heard such a ridiculous joke before, and his lackeys laughed along with him. Chen Yuming frowned and kicked Wu Xiaozan's lower abdomen, causing him to tumble. Then, he raised his fist and smashed it on Wu Xiaozan's body. Immediately, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Wu Xiaozan's lackeys were dumbfounded. They'd fought before, but they'd never seen someone break bones right off the bat. He wasn't on the same level as them at all. Chen Yuming was truly infuriated. Yushu had been the apple of his eye since she was young, and he'd never let her suffer even a little. Not only did this Wu Shaokan do something to his sister, he even spread rumors and insulted her, even threatening her. Chen Yuming couldn't take it anymore. At that time, Zhong Pingliang was also one of Wu Xiaozan's lackeys. He stood in the middle of the group and watched Wu Shaokan howl like a pig being slaughtered. He was completely shocked. This miserable scene even caused him to be awakened by nightmares for the next few days. Wu Xiaozan's family was also very powerful, or else he wouldn't have been so pretentious. However, after learning that the person who beat him up was a major general, he was a little dispirited. No matter how powerful you were in the local area, you couldn't control the matters of the military. Although it reflected on Chen Yuming's troops and Chen Yuming was punished, it didn't hurt any of their muscles. This was only Chen Yuming's own background. Later, Wu Xiaozan's family found out about Yushu and Chen Yuming's parents' background, as well as Elder Chen who was far away in the capital. They immediately felt fear and trepidation. Speaking of which, although their son's behavior seemed to be messing around, it could be considered as intimidation, insult, and slander. A little more serious, it could be considered molestation and molestation. If the Chen family really wanted to mess with you, Wu Xiaozan's life would be over. Fortunately, Chen Yuming was a magnanimous person. After the Wu family came to apologize with gifts, Chen Yuming said that he wouldn't pursue the matter. At the same time, he also said that Wu Shaokan being in school wasn't good for his sister's physical and mental health. The Wu family weren't idiots. They immediately understood Chen Yuming's meaning. The next day, they handled the transfer procedures for Wu Shaokan, and thus, the storm ended. Not many people knew about this, but Zhong Pingliang happened to be one of them. So, even if he had 100 guts, he wouldn't dare to mess with Yushu. Thinking back to Wu Xiaozan's appearance, Zhong Pingliang couldn't help but shiver. Chapter 29. What's coming has come. The last class of the afternoon was self-study. Pin Liang stood up and walked to Lin Yi's side, knocking on Lin Yi's desk twice. "What's up?" Lin Yi raised his head, a hint of impatience in his eyes. Kong Xiaobo turned around as well, looking at Lin Yi and Pin Liang curiously. He didn't know how the two had gotten into a grudge, but Pin Liang wasn't someone Lin Yi could mess with. "Come with me if you dare," Pin Liang said arrogantly. "Sorry, I'm busy. I need to study." Lin Yi lowered his head and continued flipping through his math book. "You're scared just like that? Coward." Pin Liang humphed coldly. "You can hide for now, but you can't hide forever. Just you wait for school." With that, he walked back to his seat without looking back. "I say, bro, what did you do to piss off this god?" Kong Xiaobo whispered to Lin Yi. "He's not easy to mess with. Could there be some kind of misunderstanding in between?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "Misunderstanding? Why would I get into a grudge with him for no reason? Wasn't it because of Meng Yao? If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have been able to kick Pin Liang's butt yesterday." Of course, he couldn't tell this to Kong Xiaobo. "It's nothing. This morning, Zhang Naipeo stuck out his leg and wanted me to fall, but I stepped on his foot instead. Maybe it's because of that," Lin Yi said, pushing the matter back to the morning. "Ah!" Xiaobo frowned, shocked. Zhang Naipeo is a very vengeful person, He's a vengeful person. It looks like Pin Liang is here to cause trouble for his brother. It's fine. Let them be. What can they do in school? Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly. In Lin Yi's eyes, no matter how arrogant Pin Liang was, he was still a student. Thinking back to the time when he was in the flames of war, risking his life in a rain of bullets, an enemy like Zhong Pingliang's level was too childish. Just like today's exercise break, Lin Yi had used a more mischievous method to teach Pin Liang a lesson instead of beating him up. If Lin Yi really wanted to beat someone up, Pin Liang would be lying in the morgue right now. How is it? Kong Xiaobo sighed. Lin Yi had just transferred here, so it was normal that he didn't know much about the school. He explained, Zhong Pingliang and his group are the tyrants of the school. Many students who offended them got beaten up, and some couldn't even come to school for days. So ruthless. Lin Yi didn't think that Pin Liang and the others would be able to beat up people to the point where they couldn't come to school. Yeah. Sigh, it's my fault for not telling you earlier. Kong Xiaobo sighed. If you had just said some soft words, this might have been over, but now. Now what? Lin Yi asked, interested. Things are getting difficult now. Kong Xiaobo said, unsatisfied. Fuck. Zhang Naipeo, that bitch. He's just like a milk bubble, vengeful and petty. It was just one thing, and he's in the wrong, but he's still trying to get revenge on Pin Liang. He's a piece of shit. Whatever, let them do what they want. Don't worry, I'm not that easy to bully. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder, telling him not to worry. Kong Xiaobo pouted his lips, wanting to say something, but didn't say anything in the end. What was meant to come would come. Before the last big class, Pin Liang went to find Lin Yi. The big class was also known as night study. Many schools had big classes like this. After school ended at 4:30, there would be a half-an-hour break, and the big class would start at 5. The class would last for 1.5 hours without any breaks. If you're a man, come with me. Pin Liang's words were even more aggressive than last time. Last time, he only said, you have balls. But this time, he used, if you're a man. Lin Yi was a man naturally, but he wouldn't be angered by Pin Liang's aggressive tone. But he understood that today's incident would come to an end sooner or later. He could tell that Pin Liang was the type of person who wouldn't let go. Just as he said, you can hide now, but you can't hide forever. Although there was no reason for Lin Yi to hide from him, it was enough to prove that Pin Liang was someone who wouldn't stop until he reached his goal. All right, I'll go with you. Lin Yi nodded and stood up. At this time, many people were still in the classroom. They had noticed Pin Liang when he first came to find Lin Yi, so when he appeared in front of Lin Yi again, he naturally became the focus of the class. However, when Lin Yi agreed to go with Pin Liang, the whole class went into an uproar. Many of them sighed at Lin Yi for not knowing the rules on his first day here. They didn't know how he'd pissed off the school tyrant Pin Liang, but more than that, they sympathized with him. I'll go with you. Kong Xiaobo stood up suddenly as if he had made a big decision, as if he was a soldier going to the execution ground. Kong Xiaobo was struggling in his heart as well. Although it was his first day meeting Lin Yi, he felt like they were kindred spirits. Especially in the boring 12th year of high school, it was rare to have a friend he could talk to. Pin Liang was very powerful in school, and Kong Xiaobo couldn't go against him at all. All he could do was stand aside and see if he could reduce the conflict. Fuck, Kong Xiaobo, are you crazy? Stand up for him? Pin Liang was furious when he saw his classmates standing up for a new transfer outsider. This was a provocation to his authority in the class. Kong Xiaobo was a little timid under Pin Liang's aggressive gaze, but he didn't back down. He raised his head and said, Pin Liang, Lin Yi is a new transfer. He doesn't know the rules, don't bother with him. You motherfucker, you're lecturing me. Who the hell do you think you are? Pin Liang was furious. Didn't know the rules? How could he let it go so easily? He even pissed on himself. Pin Liang was furious when he heard Kong Xiaobo's casual tone. Since you're so willing to stand up for him, you can come too. Fuck, I'm not Pin Liang if I don't kill you today. Xiaobo's expression froze, his body trembling slightly. He'd always been one of the more obedient students since he was young, and while it was in his nature to be a man, he'd never gotten into a fight before. Lin Yi didn't need Kong Xiaobo's help, but he was very touched by Kong Xiaobo's sincerity. He patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder and said, No problem, let's go together. Kong Xiaobo heard Lin Yi's words, and he felt a little more confident. At most, he would just get beaten up together. He puffed his chest out and followed Lin Yi to the class gate. Pin Liang couldn't help but get pissed when he saw Xiaobo's face. A classmate of his was siding with an outsider. He had to teach this traitor a lesson. Chapter 30. Violence against violence. Yao Yao, Shield Bro and Pin Liang are at the rooftop. Should we go check it out? Yu Shu couldn't hold back her curiosity any longer. I'm not going. Meng Yao remembered the blushing scene from this morning the moment she heard Lin Yi's name. She frowned as she turned back to her English book. She still hadn't memorized the vocabulary for the day. Let's go. Yu Shu said, her heart itching. We don't have anything to do right now anyway. Go yourself if you want to, I'm not going. Meng Yao humphed. Shu, have you fallen for that country bumpkin? Bullshit. Yu Shu's face reddened. Who would fall for him? I just want to watch the show. Then go yourself. I'm definitely not going. Meng Yao said firmly. Let's go, Yao Yao. He's your study companion after all. You have to look at the owner before you beat the dog. What if you hurt Lin Yi? You'd lose face. Yu Shu continued to persuade Meng Yao, evidently unwilling to give up. Shu, why were you so annoying? Meng Yao couldn't even focus on her book anymore. All right, I'll go with you then. Hee hee. Let's go. Yu Shu grabbed Meng Yao's hand excitedly, and the two ran towards the rooftop. Hope we don't miss out on the fun. On the rooftop, Pin Liang, Nai Peo, and Xiaofu were all rubbing their palms together with smiles on their faces. Pin Liang put a cigarette in his mouth, but Xiaofu was quick enough to light it up with a lighter. Pin Liang took a long drag of his cigarette and blew the smoke at Lin Yi's face. You motherfucker, aren't you supposed to be strong? Why don't you take out your dick again? Pour it on me again? If it's because of what happened yesterday, then fine, I admit it was my fault. Lin Yi said calmly. But what happened today has nothing to do with me. Ha! Now you admit your mistake? Pin Liang enjoyed the feeling of his opponent lowering his head, but he still said arrogantly, but it's too late. Also, what happened today has nothing to do with you. Are you stupid? You're still being stubborn at a time like this? There are so many empty urinals. What are you doing behind me? I don't think we need to line up, right? Lin Yi said seriously. Don't say that. It's useless even if you apologize. Xiaofu, teach him a lesson. Pin Liang waved his hand at Xiaofu. Hee hee, I'm coming. Gao Xiaofu smiled evilly. He took out a stool leg from behind him and walked toward Lin Yi. Lin Yi felt a little apologetic for kicking Pin Liang out of the blue yesterday. He'd wanted to find a chance to talk to Pin Liang about it, but it seemed like there wasn't a need for that now. He'd have to use violence to deal with people like Pin Liang. Look at you, kid. Who can't you piss off? You just had to piss off Liang bro. You really don't want to live anymore. Xiaofu said as he raised the stool leg and smashed it at Lin Yi. Pin Liang was smoking proudly on the side, feeling very satisfied. Who told you to piss off me? I'll change my surname if I don't beat your head up today. Pin Liang seemed to be imagining the scene of Lin Yi's head splattering blood. He licked his lips in excitement. Smack! Xiaofu swung the stool leg, but Pin Liang didn't see the scene of Lin Yi's blood splattering. Upon closer inspection, he realized that the stool leg was in Lin Yi's hand. Xiaofu frowned and pulled hard at the stool leg, but it wouldn't budge. He panicked and increased his strength. Xiaofu, what the hell are you doing? Pin Liang, on the other hand, didn't know about Xiaofu's predicament. He asked as he watched him and Lin Yi tussle. Liang bro, this kid's a bit strong. Xiaofu said. Nai Peo, you go together. Pin Liang wasn't very happy. He didn't expect this kid to have some skills. Normal students would be scared witless the moment they stepped onto the rooftop. Lin Yi, watch out. Kong Xiaobo warned when he saw Lin Yi dealing with Xiaofu, and Nai Peo charging over with a mop stick. Lin Yi thought that these students were just trying to scare the other party, but he didn't expect them to use weapons like stool legs and mop sticks. It'd be a serious injury if it hit the head. Kong Xiaobo was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to handle it. He braced himself and went over to Nai Peo. Nai Peo didn't expect that Kong Xiaobo, who usually didn't say a word in class, would dare to go against him. He wasn't happy at all. And so he wasn't in a rush to attack Lin Yi. He wanted to take down Kong Xiaobo first. Lin Yi had a rough idea of what Xiaobo was capable of, too. The way he'd faced the enemy didn't look like someone who got into fights often. The fact that he'd come to the balcony with Lin Yi out of brotherhood was something Lin Yi found very rare. Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, was scared. He'd never been in a fight before, and he didn't know what to do. He closed his eyes, waved his hands and charged forward. Naipeo had never seen someone as stupid as Lin Yi before. Closing his eyes and charging forward? Wasn't that suicide? Naipeo cackled as he raised the mop stick towards Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi didn't dare be careless this time. If he didn't go all out, Kong Xiaobo would probably die here today. With that in mind, Lin Yi didn't hold back anymore. He pulled back his hand and pulled hard, causing Xiaofu to stumble. He then sent a kick out, and before Xiaofu knew what was going on, he let go of the stool leg and crouched down, clutching his stomach in pain. Xiaofu's face turned the color of pig liver. He felt like he was going to throw up the barbecue he'd eaten in the afternoon. Kong Xiaobo didn't know what was going on as he charged forward when he felt a sharp gust of wind sweep past him. He opened his eyes to see a mop stick falling from above his head. Kong Xiaobo's heart skipped a beat. It was over, it was over. Kong Xiaobo thought of his mother, who'd been laid off at home, his father working hard in the factory, and his sister working outside. If he were to get hurt, what would he do to pay for the medical bills? Pack! A loud sound rang out and Kong Xiaobo felt the world spinning around him. It was all over. Arg! A sharp howl rang out, scaring Kong Xiaobo out of his stupor. He touched his head. It seemed like nothing had happened. He opened his eyes, puzzled, and saw Naipeo clutching his head, twitching on the ground in pain. His forehead was covered in blood. Lin Yi didn't go too far with his punishment. He didn't go for the back of Naipeo's head or temples, choosing the forehead instead. It was a tough spot, and a stool leg wouldn't do much damage. At most, it would cause some blood and a slight concussion.